All right. Should be live, folks.
Good evening.
They can't hear us?
They
Yeah,
can't
this
hear
is
us.
our warm-up period. This is to give enough people time to kind of get logged on. Hey, and there we are.
We're there.
Please don't adjust your sets. We are this ugly.
Actually, I do need to adjust my camera a little more. I can see.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
There will be karaoke later, just not right here.
Exactly.
What song will you be singing, Nathan?
Swing low, sweet chariot.
I'm in this thing now where I'm trying to sing a new song every day for never repeat.
Yeah?
So I get to 4,000.
Gosh. Good luck with that.
I'm going to try.
That's a lot of songs.
I'll try it.
Let your parents know. Let the kids know. Call your neighbors out the window. Because Robert's report is coming up.
Actually, I just realized I will have to. I'm going to have after time. I'm going to figure out a way of using my laptop over here because I can't have the audio up because it'll echo. But that's all right.
Echo is good for karaoke.
It is good for karaoke.
What you got?
Yeah, if anybody has any of their phones turned up and it's on muted.
Breaking the silence. Silence.
So Scott just texted me and says Panthers are up 16-0 in the fourth. I'm not sure who they're playing, but
What happened with the Steelers game?
tie.
Ooh.
What? It was
Tie.
I missed it.
six turnovers. 6 turnovers.
It appeared that the Steelers had a chance, like with about 2 minutes to go, 3 minutes to go, and I didn't see what happened. That they were in field goal range
In overtime with 2 minutes.
in overtime, and then they lost it.
Well, he couldn't make a 42-yard field goal. It just a little wide left.
Oh, so that's why it was a big joke that the
And
Browns just flustered theirs too.
Well,
Yeah.
yes. They got
The
the
rain.
ball back, went down, and tried a 43-yard field goal, and was actually much worse than the
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
It was a blunder.
And those are normally automatic in NFL.
Yeah.
But it was raining.
For hours.
It was wet.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
That
it was
does change
moist.
it.
Yeah, that was 4 hours of nonstop rain.
Reminds me back in the day playing, being in the band when the PHS field was real grass as opposed to artificial, and you get a home game late in the season, and that was back when basically all the junior highs played their games there too, and South played there because that was the only field. Erickson hadn't been built yet, so it got there wasn't a lot of grass left.
So they had like
On the
7
field.
games a week.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
it was there was not very much green. I mean, it was just
some-
pretty much a mud hole.
Didn't some junior highs play?
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought so.
Jackson they didn't have their own field,
Right.
Van Deventer, so it was a busy field. Now they've got the artificial turf, and there's not that many games.
Now they don't have anywhere to sit.
Their hope is, what is it, after 2020 to possibly get the state championship there. Got everything in place, new field,
1 minute and counting.
at the motel.
It's always cool to see the transitioning of the show. The 4 pictures. Yeah, it's changed.
I want to bring the green screen back. I want it to look like I'm laying on the beach or sitting in a chair on the beach.
If we just used it, yeah, it'd be cool.
Yeah,
We could be like, live from outer space, the
We're-
Roberts Report.
we're going to work on that. Craig has got that in the works. Can I do a shameless plug before we start? It is getting late in the season.
You have 30 seconds.
But if there is a little dry spell here, get off my lawn service. Will happily come over for a small fee. And
Speaking of, I was
your
supposed to
grass.
bring you money for
yes,
mom and dad,
That's
and
right.
I completely forgot.
Wow.
It's on my counter at home.
All right,
All right, here we go.
we are go for lunch.
From the Dill Center in downtown Parkersburg, West Virginia, this is Roberts Report with your host, Craig Roberts.
And I've been thinking that maybe it's time to let 'em know that we're alive. Everybody,
Craig, we love you. Quiet on the set. Good evening. Welcome to Roberts Report. As soon as I click the right button here, we'll be able to see everybody. Hey, everybody.
Hello. Hey.
What's going on? Getting a little hoarse here, so got to bear with me.
I should have let it grow just a little bit longer, guys. Don't know without a beard.
No, but you do got the porn mustache. Though.
Oh, of course. Well, the Burt Reynolds mustache.
Exactly.
right.
Speaking of
It
mustaches,
is Burt Reynolds.
That's right. Speaking of,
we're going to call you Bandit 3.
we got. Want to thank our sponsors, of course. We got Anchors and Arrows Boutique, which is now in Mason's. Good Lord, Lee's studio, not Mason's. I'll get it right here in a minute. Lee's studio. They have expanded in from the second floor of the Dills building here. Now they're in Lee's studio, so we've been blessed to have part of their extra space here. We also want to recognize Shallow Side for allowing us to use their song for our theme. They've been here from the beginning, so appreciate that. How was everybody this evening?
I'm a little bit for coming in. It was a little wet today.
Just a little.
I guess some bad news coming up on Tuesday. The water is potentially rising again, 41 feet.
Well, Scott was here. He'd be able to tell you exactly what the flood point's going to be, because he's our Willard Scott of flooding.
Our resident meteorologist.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Hobbyist meteorologist.
That's right.
Doesn't seem to be letting
No.
up all day.
No, and I tell you what, I was coming back from Minnesota on Friday afternoon. I rode that crap all the way from Minnesota all the way to Columbus, and that was a huge amount of moisture. But anyway, we got jam-packed program this evening. We're going to talk about, of course, Sheriff Stevens. We got some things around keeping people in his staff. St. Mary's guy was arrested for marijuana. And, of course, we're going to reflect on a Hollywood legend's death a little bit. And, of course, we have special guest Rob Goff in the house. We're going to talk a little bit about suicidal awareness and prevention. Of course, our tech corner will hit some technology items. And close it all out for the evening, we got Big Rick talking about some events here in the Mid-Ohio Valley. So let's go ahead and start it off here with our first topic. If I grab the right mouse, I got too many pointing devices over here. But first topic, kind of interesting. Whenever I was going down through there, of course, we've had Sheriff Stevens on the program here a few times. Good guy, perfect person for the position that he's in. But apparently they're having problems getting police officers now, which is kind of surprises me, because back in I don't know, early 2000s, I had this burr up my ass that I figured I would try out for the police department. Went through the whole thing. Did the testing, got accepted for that, and then I started the agility. And then quite honestly, if I was able to do the agility test now, I think I could actually make it. But when I was 26 or whatever age I was then, 30.
Is this
40,
agility
something
with a loaded weapon? Or
like
this
no,
new-
no. You have to, like, one of the things is you have to run. You have to run 2 miles in 14 minutes or something like that. Then you have to do 50 push-ups in 5 minutes or something like that, and sit-ups, and I don't know. There's some other things you have to do too. But when I did it, there was an overabundance. My God, there was probably 150, 200 people that took the written test, and there was at least 50 people that made it. And this surprises me that, I mean, they have an excellent retirement program. I mean, you can retire, I think, in 20 years or something like that.
Besides benefits, what was your inspiration? What was your personal inspiration?
I like the, and I still watch the cop movies. Well, to go back a little farther, at one point in time in my life, I wanted to get into forensic science, and I've always been interested in, you know, the whole law enforcement thing, just the respect, I guess. You know, something another way without going in the military to help serve country or state. And I don't know, I just couldn't do the agility part of it at that point in time. So I was kind of disappointed, but it all worked out in the long run. So
If they only had Planet Fitness back then, you'd be all right.
yeah, yeah, no doubt.
I would say the respect thing could possibly have something to do with it. I mean, here in the Mid Ohio Valley, we don't hear as much about the outrage of police brutality and things, but in the bigger cities of Chicago, there seems to be a little bit different state of mind by people that live in neighborhoods. Maybe there's not enough police on at a certain shift to take care of situations happening. But around here, I mean, we not a great deal of population. You know, we've talked about it before. Putting in perspective, the whole state of West Virginia has about the same population as the Beltway of Columbus.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting. He's Parkersburg City Council next week is to vote on a final reading of a measure allowing the city police department to offer a $10,000 incentive to join the police force.
Oh,
It's almost like the military now. Come on, we'll give you a bonus.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I mean, but
And that's coming from city funds?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's
Is that
city.
through any kind of a grant of any kind, or just directly from?
They haven't said that. Haven't mentioned that part. But I mean, basically, what the sheriff's trying to do, though, it says he's trying to retain as many of his, you know, current officers before they can before they want to go to the academy and recruit new ones, because then obviously you have the whole training curve in there. So
well, it's nice that they can do that. I mean, when we had the teachers on, we were talking about the teachers getting raises, and West Virginia has, you know, if you live over near Maryland, you can make $10,000 more a year just driving over the river, or same thing driving to Ohio like that. So it's
right.
it's good that they're allowed to do that with the city employees as opposed to with the teachers that the union wouldn't allow.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of the hospitals do it for nurses and doctors and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So, and it is a grueling job, so to speak. With I mean, I've had some friends that have went through it, and I mean, you're excuse me, you're literally at the police academy for, I think it's like 6 months or something like that, with very limited contact with your families, and it's of course military style training. So
Have you got to do a ride along?
I
you
have
done one
not.
of those before. I've heard that is an interesting thing to do. If you've ever wanted to
can
just
anybody do
know
it?
what to, I believe you sign up, you sign a waiver, and you'll be the passenger in the car. You can't get out, but you know if they stop somebody, but you'll get to see it, you know, even
Firsthand.
more live and in color than when we watch it on television.
You're like cops for real.
Yeah, yeah. And
Real-
you'll get
real
to see
live
really
PD.
what happens. Yeah,
You get to use your cell phone, take videos.
yeah. I don't know.
I'm gonna guess not.
Probably.
You know, when I
For,
was
For those interested in police, there, I believe it's Logan, Ohio, just up 33. There's the city actually pays for the internet for the mobile, and they actually broadcast. It's normally on at night.
Oh, so you can
That,
watch
uh,
the stops. And
You
stuff.
can watch, and he's got his camera so it'll point forward and point towards him, and they go to people's houses. He pulls people over for speeding and
Pretty
goes
cool.
to drug houses, things like that. Yes.
When I came out of high school, I was wanting to be a police officer, and I looked into state and I looked into cities. Back in the late '80s, they were only paying like $9 an hour. And I'm not going to get shot for $9 an hour.
Well, it's related in there that there's a shortage in West Virginia of prison guards, and they say that that's possibly due to the low pay rate that they.
You got to figure it takes a special kind of person. I mean, if nothing else, even without the initial training part of it, just the psychological going to sleep every night. You know, I mean,
Plus, know you're going to, you have a possibility of getting shot like any day you go to work.
yeah.
That's
Mhm.
why.
Well, when you're off work, I mean, people
Exactly.
know you. They see you in a uniform. So
Exactly.
I mean, and I mean, even when the sheriff was over at when was over at the house in the man cave, he mentioned, they sit a special way, when they're in civilian or uniform, so they have the quickest exit and able to view the rooms, the way they should, and I mean they train them for all
Like
that.
you said,
stuff.
it's. I would say it might even be a harder job than military because, like you said, you literally 24 hours a day feel like you might get shot.
All right, you have less support.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say that
Because it's pretty much just
military.
you.
Yeah.
Well, and then with the advent of cameras now, where you've got so many people that are worried about, the proper procedure was not followed. I mean, it sometimes it's really interesting that we see it on television of obviously the victim is not a victim. They're the one that caused all the problem, but they're making the police officer be the one that has to
The bad
defend it
guy.
of that I don't know. It is, if you can get in the right situation, it's definitely a good career. Like we said, for longevity, you don't have to work 50 years. You've got a 20-year type of thing, and retirement package.
Same thing military,
Same
too,
with
so.
the military.
I think
Yep.
the police officers get a real bum rap. Really do. I don't think they get the respect they deserve. Like they used to. Just because of all this dirty cop stuff. Like you said, no matter anything, anybody, anything, there's going to be bad people no matter what. You know what I mean? A few
Right.
bad seeds, and it shouldn't ruin it for the whole, organization.
Right.
I respect my police. They tell me to do something, I do it.
Right.
They
So,
really should.
on the other side of the law here, next story here
There we go.
is
Segue.
yes, that's a perfect segue into a dude in St. Mary's. He was arrested for allegedly growing marijuana, and he was caught by a police helicopter.
He must
They
have had
say-
quite a lot growing. There.
I'm going to say, how many marijuana plants do you have to have growing to see it from?
6 acres.
Well, now
Somebody had to
Yeah,
tip
so-
them off, though. You couldn't just be flying by. And,
I've read something about this.
I
Use
think-
a type of technology that they can pick up the thermal readings
yes,
inside of a house.
yeah.
So if you have a certain amount of thermal output that's going on in your house, like
Yeah.
from grow lamps or helicopter, from what I've read,
It's like
Yeah.
Blue Thunder.
yeah,
Well,
still
or,
has to be a
it-
good amount.
if you've got a corn patch and you've got marijuana in the middle, that
Yeah.
if you flew over it, that it just sticks out like a pimple
it
right
looks
in the
like a
middle of it.
different
It's
kind
like,
of
yeah,
corn, doesn't
You,
it?
you
Yeah.
can tell from the heat signature. So yeah.
Different kind of corn.
Yep. But anyway, they ended up arresting him, and once they got inside, they found seeds. They found multiple restricted short barrel firearms, homemade silencers. So I mean, that's actually kind of scary, though. I mean, aside the marijuana part, I'm not too concerned about that part, but some of these other homemade
silencers,
silencers. What was the dude thinking? What was he doing? What else was he doing? If he needs silencers for his guns, what else is he doing?
I think the problem with marijuana in general hates that people that taking and selling, doing something illegal. So if they have that kind of character, no matter what they want it, do something. What else are they going to do?
Doing other illegal activities.
They may not worry about all the illegal.
Well, there was a similar case just in the news. What didn't involve a helicopter, but they found, I believe it was in Parkersburg. They found 9 pounds of marijuana and several $7,000+ of cash and scales.
Oh, that's
I mean, it was a full
That's just personal use. For
full
some,
operation.
For some
Yeah,
people.
it was just for me and my wife. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a dude up in. Actually, I don't know if you were at that Rock on the Range or not, but some dude got arrested in the campground there for like 10 pounds of marijuana. I wonder if it was one of them guys going around selling the $20 shirts.
Yeah.
You know, sell a shirt and say,
Yeah.
"You want into that too?"
Well, and
Now it's $40.
and to put it in perspective, I mean, unless it's super ultra compacted, I mean, a gallon of milk weighs 10 pounds, but that's a liquid.
Yeah,
A pound of marijuana
this is
takes up
grass. 10
quite a lot of room.
Yeah,
So if you've got
yeah.
10 pounds of it, I mean, you know, that's the whole back of your minivan. I mean, that's a lot of
Sounds
stuff.
like it, yeah.
Yeah, it was intent to deliver for sure.
Now I never saw anything down at the Roberts campground.
Yeah, there was none of that there. I can tell you
okay,
that.
all
It looked
right,
like
okay.
it looked like that at all.
Now
so.
people walk through there with it. I don't know, but we,
And you only had that near beer, right?
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
You do occasionally see it growing along the railroad tracks, you know, along the river.
Never had.
Yeah.
So,
Well, now we know where Nate gets his. Yeah.
yeah, Nate.
Well, a friend of mine actually found, I believe it was a 4 or 5 foot tall plant in Marietta, along in Muskingum Park. And obviously somebody must have dropped some seeds, and then it just started growing, and nobody noticed it. You know, it was just down by the river. Because it is a weed; it'll grow wherever.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It is
Yeah.
true.
So we're going to move on to. Actually, we have one other topic here, but we'll try to get to that here after a bit. Let's. I think we should go ahead and move on to Rob. You are here, of course. A very unfortunate situation. What brought you into the awareness of this? But you know, like we said before the show, the best thing to do is to talk about it. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Rob Goff. It's and suicide prevention awareness. So go right ahead, man.
So, yeah, it is September. Suicide Prevention and Mental Health Awareness Month. Something that happened in my family. Actually, this last couple months. Afterwards, my wife and I decided to active, learn, find out, help the community. One of the first things that we did actually was a class that anybody can take. It's actually meant for educators, but anybody can actually take it. And it's called First Aid for, and it just like any first aid class. You learn to be that first responder. So, kind of learn the tools to assess people, how to get them, and first thing in mental health, do no harm. So that was one of the first things we did, and we've been blessed to be able to have that class.
Can you pull your mic just a little closer to you there? Got some people saying that. You
Oh.
said before the show that
Eat it.
Yeah.
Eat it.
Can't hear him. Oh, okay.
How's that better?
We got you now.
Much
yeah,
better.
Yeah.
Okay. Sound very loud to me.
yeah, some people were saying that it was cutting out, but
Okay.
I said it needed turned up. So we'll see if that works. Let us know how that works. See if it. What about? What about? Oh, there we go. That's louder. So, did you have anything? I mean, were you involved in this any before at all? With
So, Christian, my stepson, he had clinical depression. So we were only involved just with him. I mean, he went to counseling. He had to take medication. We had to, deal with that for about 3 years. Outside of him, it wasn't really something that we really got involved in. So actually, we've learned more just in the last few weeks from trying to educate ourselves and trying to help others than we actually learned in the whole 3 years of dealing with a child that had depression.
So you wouldn't say it was a total surprise because they looking through the psychological thing that's one of the symptoms of
Yeah.
that they already got one foot in the door of. So the idea is the prevention from that.
Yeah.
And the medication was possibly just maintaining a certain mindset that maybe it wasn't helping or do you not know about that?
I think every situation is different when it comes to mental health and with depression, and there's many different kinds of medication. In Christian's case, I think anyone who has a teenager will relate to the fact that it's hard to keep them on a regular routine of taking medication. So I think he was
yes.
irregular sometimes on medication, and I think there was times where he took it upon himself to, think that it wasn't something that he needed to treat any longer. Maybe he was a little irregular on the treatments. But I think, as we've learned moving forward, that it's just a situation that has to always be treated once diagnosed.
I think it has been brought up before that everybody in the room here, we're all in our 40s now. So going to school, there wasn't
Speak
a lot
for
of kids.
yourself.
Well, okay, Craig. I know.
I didn't know you were 50 yet.
You're gonna.
No.
You're 50 now.
No, I'm just kidding.
But growing up in Vienna, going to there was what do we call it, the sunshine room classes, that if there was a learning disability, or if there maybe you had a physical mental type of thing, that they went to a different class. But there wasn't. It seems like nowadays you hear it said that there's way too many kids that are on medication. They're on. I don't want to name any of the names, but that if maybe the parent is not taking care of spending enough time with the child, so that it's like, oh well, they're depressed, so we're gonna put them on. You take them to the doctor. Oh, here's some medication. Here we go.
Yeah.
So
I think the situation that's in certain cases with mental health, there may be some types of mental health conditions that would be more like that. But I think when you're dealing with depression, I liken it to more like diabetes. So if you had somebody in your family with diabetes and they had to have insulin because their body was deficient of insulin because it wasn't making the right amount of it, depression is kind of like that. They're deficient in something, and that medication is something that they need, that their body is not naturally creating like maybe the rest of us.
Oh, something similar. My mom has thyroid. So if she does
Yeah.
not take her thyroid medication every day,
Mm-hmm.
if she missed a day, then she would just be really tired and just
Yeah.
not really able to function what you would say normally in society, because you've got to have that medication.
Yeah, so I've learned that mental health, it has a stigma, and people don't talk about it. Like you may talk around the family dinner table about, or at Thanksgiving, you may talk with your family about someone in your family just got diabetes and what that's all about, or someone just had their gallbladder removed, and we'll openly talk about these types of health issues. When it comes to mental health, people don't sit around the Thanksgiving dinner table and talk about someone in the family just got diagnosed with depression. We kind of keep it quiet, and that's one of the things that we've tried to, with our awareness increasing, we've tried to create a group on Facebook called Breaking the Silence MOV, and we are trying to do a few things with charity events that help increase awareness. And we're very much supporting the mental health first aid that is in West Virginia. It's a free program. Take the class. It's through a grant through West Virginia Project Aware, and it's very informative, and it helps you become basically a first aid responder to those with mental health issues. So, and one of the other things that we've kind of went on to establish is my wife has established a daily blog, and it is also, if you go to Breaking the Silence MOV, you can find a link to get to her blog, and it's called Walking with Christian. So it is literally a daily account of her walk after the loss of Christian. And many people have reached out to us and have said that her daily account has helped them because they've lost people to suicide as well. And even some people with suicide have reached out to her and said how inspirational that they found her blog. And I hope people will continue reading that and we're able to reach people with it. Matter of fact, WVUP recently wrote an article on it. And, this is all stuff that's only been around for about a month. So we're just kind of getting all this stuff kicked off. We're really excited about how much response we've already seen from it, and we hope it continues growing. And, with this being, September, Mental Health Awareness Month, we've got a lot of different things that we're trying to do and events to participate in. And all those can be found on the Breaking the Silence MOV as well.
I see on there you've got a link to the Suicide Prevention Lifeline.
Yeah.
1-800-273-TALK.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be for, I would believe, not only someone who was suffering with it, but also to get awareness for someone who may have a friend or relative that is needing something, so that they can get information.
And they can find out how to proceed to get that person resources. But one of the things about depression, and we really learned from Christian's story, and that we're really trying to establish that everyone becomes aware that one of the symptoms of depression is when you suffer from depression, you can't reach out and burden your family members. You stay silent about the things that are troubling you. But what they really want inside their mind is for someone to reach out to them. But they don't want to reach out, so they're silent. Because of the stigma, all of us are silent and sometimes afraid to reach out. And so it becomes a vicious cycle that has to be broken. And of course, the person with depression maybe can't. So it's up to the rest of us to try to assess the signs and to reach out to those people.
What I think is amazing is some of the, we know how in normal life, I want to call it, that people get depressed, but we have, celebrities which are on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
But it's for real. People that have it all. The one that comes to my mind right off the top of my head, Chester Bennington.
Mm-hmm.
The dude's voice is irreplaceable.
Sure. Yeah.
And
had everything.
Yeah.
Sure.
But there it went. But he had the same messages and questions and I guess reaching out, but he was trying to reach out in his music, in his lyrics.
Yeah.
If you go back from the beginning, how long was he suffering from depression?
Yeah. He reached out, but we don't know at what level anyone reached back to him.
Right.
They look at it as art, and many times artists, I think, definitely display that. And with kids, teenagers, I think it is expressed through the music they listen to. Now, that doesn't mean, I'm not ever trying to say that I think if they listen to a certain type of music that's causing suicidal thoughts. What I'm saying is if you listen to some types of music that they may listen to, you may question, what is it about this song that draws you to it? Is the content something you're interested in? Is it the band? You know, what is it exactly? I think that's a good start of a conversation, because maybe that's why they're listening to it in front of you, because
Well,
they want that
people-
conversation.
Well, people go through, breakups and stuff, and then hear that one song that just throws you into. I mean, it's different, but it's the same.
Yeah.
It triggers thing. It's a trigger.
A trigger.
Right.
That's exactly right.
Well, I know with technology now, I mean, we all started out with having our cassette Walkmans and things, but I see a lot of younger kids now, whether they're just riding a bike, walking, riding on the bus, that lots and lots of people have their headphones on, that they're listening to music all the time, but you don't know exactly what music it would be. And with our lifetimes here, my parents were together. I grew up in an area of Vienna where everybody was married. When I would say my mom was one of the few that actually was working. You had a lot of we were talking about jobs being a police officer, that you went to work. The mother stayed home, was there when the kids got home. Now today we've got a lot of families. I don't want to say they're broken, but you have families where mom lives in one place, dad lives in another. You may have the child is coming home to nobody and may be there for 3 or 4 hours by themselves before mom gets home from work. So all that time that's left, are they playing video games? Are they listening to music? So that could contribute to depression, that you don't know what they're doing, or as you were talking about, keeping them on a schedule of when you get home, I need you to do this and I need you to do this, so that keeps their mind off of possibly what am I doing, or what I don't know what to do. You know, and
so I think what you're bringing up there is very important, about people listening to the music privately and maybe spending so much time alone because of scheduling and working and school. And so what you're saying there is there's a lack of communication among family, and the other word for that is silence.
Maybe
lack
it's
of
not
communication is silence.
Right. Maybe it's not a good idea for the child to go to their house and be left alone for 2 or 3 hours. It's like, maybe you could set up a schedule for them to go to a neighbor's house or something, and they don't know that's why you're doing that, but it fits into that you want them to be with somebody if indeed a problem has been identified.
That's kind of stretching it, though, a little bit, I think.
I think it's important
Because-
that. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. but-
No. I'm just, in my opinion, I think that's just kind of stretching it a little bit, though. I think that people are wired differently. There's just no other way of putting it. That you can't really, in some cases, you can't really put a cause. You can't blame it on something. It's just different people are able to. They're able to handle things better.
Yes.
I, for one, I don't want around anything negative. I mean, if something does come along negative, I mean, I can handle it.
Yeah.
People can't, and that's the.
Well, I mean, and those people, and if it's a diagnosed case of depression or other mental illness, now the thing we have to remember is that that's a medical condition. It's not just so. Like, here's sometimes it's our definitions, it's our terminologies. So I've heard this slung around, and actually it was a couple situations I'm not going to get into right now, but where somebody within power, like as in a school administrator who should know better, used the word, "We don't want you to be sad anymore." To somebody who suffered with depression on at least a few different occasions. So the thing is, that's kind of like talking to somebody who has an illness that makes them gain weight and saying, "We don't want you to be fat anymore," or talking to a cancer patient and that's skinny because of their treatments and say, "Why don't you just eat something?" These aren't things that are right to say to someone with depression. So it's our terminologies, and people don't understand that sadness is not the same as depression.
No,
Sadness goes away.
Depression does fit into the same genre as if we're talking about a child that has ADHD, things like that, where that they would take medication, and that there are counselors and things like that that they can meet with on on a weekly or even daily basis, things like that?
Yeah, so I think all of those things work in a spectrum. And, I'm not an expert on it at all, but there is a spectrum that mental health professionals have, showing anxiety, depression, ADHD, that's very common in today's world. And, I mean, the symptoms, when you look at them, it's very hard to distinguish between them. Bipolar, a lot of things are very similar. And that's why it's very important for people to be able to assess that there's an issue, not try to assess what the issue is. Get a professional that can actually, assess that. They'll pick out in that spectrum what needs treated. It's.
I think the air just kicked on.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Like, yes.
I was like,
Getting cool is good.
One thing we were talking about was, about building awareness in teens, and you talked about the crisis text line. There's a big thing now that's great for teens, and it's a text line. It's 24 hours a day, and it's simple. Text 741-741.
that'd be great for kids. They hate using the phone.
Yeah. Well, and because people with depression also sometimes have a problem with burdening someone. So that's like, if I wanted to ask you a question and I don't want to bother you,
You just
I won't
text.
call you. I text
Right.
you, and you get to me when you can. So people have that feeling already about texting. But 24 hours a day, there's somebody at 741-741, and you can text that number and say, hey, you want to talk. And just that simple, someone will text with you, and they will help you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they text with you about whatever, but their goal is to assess what kind of risk that you may be in at that particular moment, get you through that hard time. Very often, we have learned that depression, when you are having a bout of depression that's really you're struggling with, if you can just get through a little while, if that one person could be there to talk you through for a little while, you'll make it through to the next day.
Ooh.
Most often.
Yeah, my wife posted a good point on here too. Back to the kind of the music thing. She says a lot of times to me, music is an expression of your feelings at that moment. Whether it's been a bad day, good day, time of depression, you can tell a lot about a person by the music they choose.
I'm going to have to agree on that.
I agree. Yeah.
If you're getting ready to go on vacation, the hard stuff comes out, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of us in this room on this program right now, we've all DJ'd publicly.
Right.
We've all done shows, karaoke even. And you can kind of tell from some of the song choices people come up and ask to sing what they're going through in their life. They
Like so-
either just had a breakup.
They have the man-hitting songs.
Yeah, there's so you can kind of tell just from their choices.
Yeah.
And music is a very powerful way for us to express what we're feeling.
And sometimes we don't even know it. It just happens. It's just
Well, talking about kids and things of having time alone, but even at school, they found out they took the recess away from some of the elementary students, and that basically made some of the kids depressed because they didn't have that off time between studying, so that they actually added that back in, and it made life for the teachers and everybody at the schools better, because they needed that time to be away to then get back into the studying.
So don't you have a walk or something or other coming up as well, or some kind
Yeah,
of
so
event?
actually, it's a big walk, and I can't take credit for it, but we have a team in it. It's called Out of the Darkness. It's on September 22nd.
Now, is this the one? Do you know Jay Morris, by the way?
I know Jay. I met Jay Morris actually at the Roberts Campground.
That's right. That's right.
At Rock on the Range, as
That's
a matter
right.
of fact.
Oh.
Yes.
Yep, he was the one bringing the Tic Tac beer.
Yeah,
That's what he
yeah.
called it, the orange Tic Tac beer.
Oh my!
But go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you
No,
on
that's
your.
okay. So the Out of the Darkness walk, it's a nationwide walk, but there is going to be one in Parkersburg at the city park on September 22nd. Myself, my wife, our family, many friends have formed a team called Walking with Christian.
Actually, I do remember this now because there was a lady that was on our program. There was one big, huge one in Washington, I think.
Okay,
Are you
yeah.
familiar with that?
So there is a team right now that we're not the lead. Well, I think we're fifth place as a team.
Okay.
So the top team has already raised almost $5,000.
Wow.
I wish I could give props to the name of that team. Maybe Nate can find it or something on the on the Out of the Darkness MOV website, perhaps. But I know that there's 33 total teams that have raised almost $18,000 so far. I just happened to write some statistics down. The lead team is not our team. We're in 5th place, and we're hoping to make a big move as we get closer to the walk. But it is for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. It's nationwide, and anyone can join. You can join. Feel free to contact me and join our team if you like, or start your own team. You can show up that day and register and be a one-man team if you like. But it's a great thing to get involved with.
The heck is that?
Oh, I was just bringing up something for Rob here. We just had another walk of a different kind, and it was the 3rd annual Walk Against Heroin. It was over at City Park.
Yeah, that was Saturday,
and,
right?
that was on Saturday.
Yeah.
Wanted to thank Rich Walters for putting that on. He's moving up in the community of not only awareness but prevention and helping people. He being a former person that was involved in that type of thing.
I was trying to see what I was doing on the 22nd. I thought maybe we could pull off some kind of a.
I think the walks are
podcast or
very
something.
powerful in that I think people can. It's something that people don't mind getting involved in. It's a great way to raise money and awareness. I think it's great that they had the one on Saturday, and I really wish I could have been a part of that as well. As a matter of fact, because that's a huge issue here in the Valley, obviously, as we're all aware of that.
It's a nighttime. Is it? What time is the walk at?
On the 22nd, it's going to be 1 to 4:30. So there's not a like when you give donations, it's just you're just donating and sponsoring that person. You may sponsor them $10, $15, whatever, but each person on the team is trying to raise like at least $500 per person, and then more if possible. It doesn't matter how many miles they walk or how many laps. It's just the fact that they're going to walk between 1 and 4:30.
So do you donate to walk? Is that the way? I mean, can like if I wanted to participate in?
Yeah. So the way you just register, and you can register with a team. Like we would love to have you on our team, obviously. And then they assign you the $500 to raise. There's no penalty if you don't raise it, obviously, but you put it out on your Facebook, or you could do whatever. You put it on a Roberts Report.
And right now,
hint, hint.
Rob's is at $145.
That's it.
out of
Yeah.
$5 out of 500.
Yeah.
And you can get to that at afsp.donordrive.com.
If they go to my Breaking the Silence MOV
Should throw the link
page,
in
they can definitely find the link
comment section.
for myself as well.
Yeah, you can get to the link from the Breaking Silence MOV.
Okay.
It's on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So we did some other things too. We sold some T-shirts that we're going to throw in. We had some T-shirts that we made for awareness, and it had the name of my wife's blog on it, Walking with Christian, which is also our team name. And I forget how much we raised, but we raised several $100s or more through the sale of the T-shirts as well. We'll add that into our team total, but I think it's great if people could get involved. If you can't come and walk, send us a few dollars, and I'll make sure to give you a call out on my Facebook page that you donated to us. And,
I have a family reunion. Well, it was actually supposed to be a wedding, but now it's a family reunion. I'm not sure what, but anyway,
right.
I have to DJ on that Saturday, but I think it's in the evening. That's why I was trying to think if I could pull off a couple hours before.
So interestingly, I have to DJ a wedding in McConnellsville at 6:30 that evening. So
okay.
I'm literally going to walk, get in my truck, drive straight to McConnellsville, and set up and DJ a wedding. So
And
it
go-
can be done.
and go home, go to bed.
And then go home, get to bed.
The life of a DJ.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm
On
glad I'm
Saturdays.
retired.
Yeah. DJs are very busy through the summer and fall on
Yeah.
Saturdays.
I've got to meet with a bride coming up on Wednesday for a wedding coming up.
I tell you what, man.
I
this-
don't. I feel great.
This time of the year, not to get off subject here, but man, the outdoor weddings and rain is just
or heat.
Heat. Yeah.
Heat
yeah.
and bugs.
Bugs. Yeah.
I've learned over the years, never forget if you have an outdoor wedding, take your off. with you.
That's a good idea. I never
It-
thought about that.
So, cause
I never did.
You're outside, it's dark, and your computer screen is a mosquito magnet.
Definitely.
Okay?
Yeah.
You got to take some off with you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good idea. I do every now and then take a fan.
That's a good idea.
Just-
Definitely.
I used to have one that permanently just left in there, but it become part of the man cave now.
I had a USB fan that you stuck into your
A
computer.
USB.
Yeah. You didn't need electric. Just put it in
Oh,
your
did it
computer.
make it up there?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. On just appeared. Nathan Hess just posted it on Robert's report. We got the Breaking the Silence MOV charity organization there. So
Great.
get you a link.
Great. Thank
One
you.
thing I wanted to ask you, Rob, is you know, the listeners out here, if they have kids and stuff, what should they be looking for as far as like, you know, depression, or if they might have, if their kids might be,
It's a great
you know,
question.
thinking about suicide, or what should they be looking for, basically?
There's a whole string of things. So and that's one of the things that it's great for people to go and take the class, be a first aid responder for it.
It sounds to me like the teachers need to take the class that they're not taking.
Yeah, so that's something actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Myself, and my family is going with me on Tuesday to the Board of Education, and we are going to the meeting. And we'd love to have as much support and purple shirts there as possible. Any listeners out there would like to show up. I know that I'm registering at 6:30 and speaking sometime after that. I've been assured that I am going to speak. And I just want to try to get that point across that, you know, I know they have some things in place saying that teachers have to have their education on this. But my question is, who's watching that? Is there a watchdog actually keeping track of when educators are taking these classes and what they're learning? And I just wonder what the guidance is on it, and that's just something I'd like to speak about there, because the educators, of course, they spend majority of our kids' time, more than we do.
And at the beginning of the year, they have to get on students that have certain medical conditions and things. They get a report sheet on everyone so that they would know if a child did have depression, that would be listed on their form. I would believe.
Well, I think there just needs to be, like we said, more communication. So it definitely isn't me pointing the finger at the Board of Education. I'm definitely not wanting to point the finger at educators. What I think, though, I think that we just all need more communication, because if I have these questions, I'm sure other parents have these questions too. I hope we can have answers and just a good conversation.
It needs to be brought up more than just at the parent-teacher conferences.
Well, I mean, you know, here's the thing. There's a stigma. There's a stigma that is in society. We already established that people with depression already have a hard time reaching out.
Mhm.
So the only thing that I can think of to try to get past this is for us to, as in the name of our little charity, break the silence. We need to bring up the conversations. And I don't think, as long as we're bringing up the conversation in the correct way and the hopes of a productive conversation, I don't think any of that can be bad.
Well, I know right after, you know, I read it on Facebook about Christian, I sat my daughter down and I talked to her and I told her, you know, if you ever have any questions or you know, have any feelings, or you feel you need to talk to somebody, make sure you talk to us first. And, you know, don't, you know, let things get out of hand, and let
Yeah.
us know what's going on, how you feel and stuff, you know.
I mean, you know, after taking classes and reading and researching on my own, I still would feel most comfortable telling parents to do that independent research on their own, because I'm not a counselor. But I would advise people to, you know, talk to your kids like you did. I think is an important first step. If you want to look for things, I mean, you want to look for changes in behavior. I think you want to look for, if your teen withdrawals from doing events or doing extracurricular activities, dropping grades, use of alcohol and drugs.
Or if they use the words, "I just want to die," maybe that might be a good
That's a good
good sign.
You know, honestly, and I know that's a little bit of jest, but honestly, I think listening to the phrases that they say, they may be trying to tell you something,
Right.
just like the music they listen to, because it's so hard for them. Anyone who's dealing with these feelings, they don't want to burden their family and come out and tell them, but at the same time, they don't want to die.
Right.
And that's the thing I think people don't really realize is that people that lose their battle and to depression and commit suicide, they most likely didn't really want to die.
They just didn't want to hurt anymore.
Right.
They didn't want to hurt anymore.
They're screaming at the top of their lungs silently.
And they didn't want to hurt anyone else with their burden, the burden that they had.
And then they don't realize how bad they hurt, like you and Jeannie, by doing what they did. I mean, they weren't thinking of the other people's hurt.
I think they do
Take
think
away
of.
their
I think
hurt.
they think of that, but like a lot of times when they do think of that, they leave a note, and I think that's the reason that the note's left. The note's left and they tell people,
to comfort the
they say, "This wasn't your fault.
right.
Don't blame yourself. These are the things that are said." And
Well, I was asking you before, what was his, I know he was depressed, but did he have like any kind of burdens as far as like being bullied or
like a trigger.
problems with anybody or anything? Or?
So, I surmise that, I've read that there is research that shows that early childhood bullying sometimes establishes depression and later in life. I'm not a doctor, but
Right.
I mean, I am guessing that may have caused his depression from early childhood bullying that he did experience at times. His trigger, I mean, some of that I can't actually talk about, but some of it I think was perhaps bullying. And, it was, the interesting thing is sometimes we don't always think of who bullies are. So a bully sometimes could be just anybody who tries to hold some type of power over you.
Right.
I've talked about it before, but I was bullied grade school, junior high school, and I mean, if I wouldn't have had the support that I would have had from my grandfather, my parents, and everyone around, you could have very easily could have fell into that, fear and ultimately depression. I mean, that you couldn't walk, you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that, and
I wouldn't want to be a kid today because like when we were growing up, basically it was like physical bullying. Like, some kid was beating you up or taking your lunch money or calling you names or whatever. Now, I mean, even as like little kids can be just vicious on social media or like the cyberbullying and stuff. And it's just like, they could just like ruin little kids' like reputations or, whatever. I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about
horrible
like a
right
picture's
now.
taken and then it's sent
Just-
to everybody.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
like
that makes
it's
them
like
feel bad.
everything. I
Yeah.
mean, we didn't have to worry about that back then. We just had to worry about like our physical well-being.
Mhm.
But like I said, you get on Facebook and these kids are vicious, man.
Yeah.
They're just vicious.
So like I said, I don't want to go too far into some things out of respect to the Roberts report, obviously, but some things I'll have to speak about maybe with the proper outlets and authorities, let's say. But I will say that Christian did experience cyberbullying a few months prior to his death. And I will say that, like any parent, when I found out there was a cyberbullying situation that was happening, I told him, I said, that's not right. You need to talk to an administrator. You need to go to the administration and say, this is what happened and it's not right. And he did that. So he did that, but he didn't get the results from that conversation
That he should have or wanted to.
he didn't get the results that I promised him, that I thought that he would.
Right.
What he got from a particular administrator was he was told that he was bringing that onto himself, and that they should just shake hands, and be friends.
It's kind of like a suck it up buttercup type thing.
Yeah, well,
like-
this particular administrator actually said, you guys are exactly alike. There's no reason you shouldn't be friends. I will say that he did call the parents of the kid that bullied him online, and it was taken down. But Christian didn't get satisfaction from that. When you're told, I likened it in later meetings with those administrators. I likened it to the Me Too movement, and what if it had been a sexual harassment circumstance with a girl? Would that administrator would he have told the girl that she brought it on herself?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. But when it was a
You would hope
cyber,
not.
yeah, well, I mean, yeah. But there's so much emphasis on that. Everyone knows you don't say that. Obviously, that's the wrong thing to say. But for some reason, he thought that, cyberbullying. Oh, well, you brought it on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if you no longer want
Yeah.
someone to work with you at work, all you have to do is bring up a sexual harassment case, and they'll probably be dismissed. That's how it works.
Yeah, Missy brought up another point here. It says kids aren't the only bullies. Children learn from what they see every day. Adults are just as guilty.
Yeah, some of the
Absolutely.
teachers are bullies too. you know?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Ryan Carroll, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach.
Yeah.
I'm a product of childhood bullying. The difference is when I was young, I started martial arts and stood up for myself.
Now he's a badass.
Yeah,
Well,
I wouldn't bully Ryan.
I was going to bring that up. It used to be if somebody wanted to bully you, it's like, okay, fine. There was a guy that liked to punch me in the arm, when you walk by, and it's like, well, that's great. Until one day I decided, well, okay,
You punched
I'm
him back.
waiting, and I punched him back,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it broke his jaw totally, but he didn't punch me in the arm anymore.
See,
but now, if you did that today,
You're kicked out.
I would have been expelled for life, and I would have had to have been homeschooled. If you do anything, and that's what we're talking about here with bullying and things like that. If something happens today, the zero tolerance policy has made it not for the victim and the person that, things like that. They're so touchy of, oh, well, we're going to suspend you. It's like,
Yeah.
what did I do? I mean, you talk back to your teacher. It used to be, well, don't do that again. Now it's like, well, okay, you're suspended for 3 days because you talk back to your teacher.
Yeah, there's no
So-
retaliating now.
Right.
You can't, you can't defend yourself or stand up for
Right.
yourself.
But
that's what got me out of it.
Exactly.
My
And-
grandpa said, you go out there and stand up. Don't you ever let anybody walk all over you.
That's what my mom did. She always told me, give somebody a warning, give them 2 shots, and then if they don't stop, on the 3rd time, just punch them right in the nose.
Yep.
If they're picking on me or punching me or whatever, and I always stood up for myself, and like I said, I never got bullied after that. Once they know you're going to fight back, they don't bully. So, but how do you do that now when, like you said, you get in school suspension, I was expelled or whatever? I mean, no
Right.
matter what you do.
know-
I mean, if you're the bully or the bully.
And I'm not going to say that I support. I'm
Violence?
I can't say that publicly that I support that, but I will say that there's more and more studies going on where they say like suspension does absolutely nothing.
The kids want to be expelled.
Well, I
a lot
mean,
of times.
the thing is,
Do you want to go to
like,
school or stay home?
You take somebody in that circumstance. Let's say that they had some kind of a mental health issue, something like what Christian struggled with. He was suspended for something that occurred because of that bullying instance. He didn't get the results that he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
They said, just go back out and he went out in the cafeteria and he threw his books down on the table. They slid off the table and made a noise. And the entire cafeteria turned around and laughed at him. Well, he stood up and he flipped off the entire cafeteria. Okay? And when they told me that, I was like, yeah, I kind of don't blame him. I can't support that maybe, but man, I guess I would have done the same thing in that circumstance. But he got suspended for that. But we have to look at, this was somebody with depression. And why would you want to remove them from their routine that they're being successful in? Why would you want to remove them and try to silence them?
So you're almost talking about he was because he wasn't diagnosed with something else other than depression that, what am I thinking about, like Asperger's or something, where that you act out that because he wasn't diagnosed with that because of what he did, that he was suspended for it. If he had physical or mental disease where that was something that you do, with your hands or something like that, then he wouldn't have gotten suspended for it.
I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you for sure what the administration would have done or wouldn't have done, but I mean, I think it's a conversation that needs to be, had.
Mm-hmm.
What service are we really doing for the kids? Now I'm sure there's circumstances, and all circumstances are different, but like someone was asking me before when I had this conversation, they said, well, do you expect educators to treat everyone with mental health differently? And I said, absolutely not. I think that you should learn how you're supposed to speak to someone with a mental health condition and treat everybody with that same respect and dignity that you're supposed to show that person. And maybe that would actually be good for everyone. Why not treat everyone with respect and dignity?
Well, we had mentioned that the cell phones definitely are with children younger and younger. They've actually gone. Some schools have gone to the, I guess you call it the extreme of, in certain classrooms or even the cafeteria, the walls have been painted with a metallic type of paint so that the phones don't work in there, so that they can't. You can have your cell phone with you, but it doesn't do you any good because the reception doesn't work. So I don't know if that's a good thing in the right direction. I mean, we all made it without cell phones all the way through school. I mean, does a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old really need, does a kindergartner need a cell phone, or does a middle schooler need it?
I got my daughter a cell phone just recently. She's going to be 12 in January. I made her wait. Christian was the same way. We made him wait till around 12, middle school. But by that same thing, every parent's caving into this, as all the kids are saying everybody's got a cell phone.
We're worried about the protection thing, about
there's
incidents happening.
There's good reasons for them to have cell phones, but going back to what you said earlier about everyone's kind of living in their own little world with their headphones on and with social media and
video games.
How much conversation, how much silence.
Their phone is more of their world than people around them is their world.
Yeah, and Facebook world, we're broadcasting to Facebook right now. Thank you for watching, by the way.
Right.
But
how many of us do not check into Facebook at least 2 or 3 times a day?
At the same time, message your kids right now and say you'd like to have a conversation with them. And so like you were saying earlier about kids spending too much time doing these things, I think that it's probably okay, like everything is, but you need to schedule in the other things. If you're going to let those things happen, like because of your busy schedule, they have to spend so much time at work or so much time at home alone while you're at work, or they're going to spend so much time listening to music alone or on social media alone or video gaming alone. Okay, schedule some of that time for them that they're going to be with teammates, let's say on a sports team, or they're going to be in church with their youth group, or they're going to be with you at the dinner table. These are all things that we can just put the phones down for a while and have real human conversations.
I think the key word is that it's awareness. Be aware where your child is. Be aware of how many hours they are spending with other people, how many hours they're spending away, and the more you can be aware and the more you can understand what's going on. If they are diagnosed or maybe they haven't been diagnosed, that will definitely benefit not only them but the kids around them. So we want to thank Rob Goff for coming in. Just lost a stepson to suicide, and we hope that we've let some people know about information about it here in the Middle High Valley on Robert's Report tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Appreciate you coming in. Appreciate you sharing, and you're welcome. Stick around and hang out with us here.
I love to hang out. Yeah.
I don't have the picture set up on the screen. I banged my head before the podcast to get everybody's name right and everybody's microphone caller right. And I didn't allow for that fifth person in the thing, but you can be the man on the couch or the voice on the couch or whatever.
Ooh.
Like
That
you-
sounds great.
But thanks again, and if anybody out there has any questions around it, feel free to post it in underneath the video of this podcast, and I'm sure Rob will be monitoring it, and you can go in there and give advice or whatever if you can or whatever.
And we've got
Yeah.
the link there on the Roberts Report page. You can log in, donate some money, and find out what's going on with suicide awareness.
Yeah, thanks guys for letting me speak.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so that brings us up to our next special guest of the evening, and I'm gonna push the button here. It's Big Rick.
That looks like Big Rick.
Hey, we know that guy.
What's going on, Rick?
One half of Rocks Off Entertainment.
Did you say 1.5?
The better looking half,
Oh, the better looking half. Okay.
no doubt.
So, how's things going? And you're in, you still in
Motown.
Morgantown?
Yeah, still in the same place, different job, but still in the same place. And
Can't hear you very well, Rick. You have a microphone there?
I'm glad you found a job, by the way. I was really feeling sorry for you going to all those concerts and games, you know?
Yeah.
I really
Oh.
was.
let me see if I can up the volume here. Does that help at all? Does that help?
Oh, yeah. I think we could get a little better
I think
there.
it's a little bit better, yeah.
All right.
Doing a little change in jobs here in radio business, but that's not new to any of us who've been in radio before. Moving around. Hope things are going well.
Oh, things are fine. Things are better than ever, actually. Sometimes you get to the point where you can, you have just so much, I don't know, the turmoil or things just don't seem to be adding up. You feel like you're pushing a boulder uphill. So for me, this was all good, and I'm still essentially in the same place, just at a different radio station, playing rock and roll music, which I know the best. So I'm good. I'm better than ever, actually.
Got a big concert coming up here in the Middle Ohio Valley. Pop Evil comes to the
Yeah,
Adelphia.
couple concerts actually for some guys that decided that they were done with this whole thing back in 2015. We certainly lied to ourselves and everybody else.
That's good.
I didn't expect it. Yeah, it is good. Mid Ohio Valley, even though it's not where I'm from, is in many ways just as much a home to me as Pittsburgh is. And I got so many emails and Facebook messages and text messages from people who know me personally about how they missed, this type of music in the Mid Ohio Valley. And so when we started up April 28th, I think, was the first one with Shaman's Harvest. That was supposed to be the only one, and it really was. It was the only one. And I did not think it would turn into something that we're going to end up doing 5 or 6 of these by from April to probably the end of the year, and maybe even some more in the hopper. But that we know of, there's at least going to be 5. And Pop Evil comes back to Marietta. It wasn't supposed to be that way. I want to talk about that for a minute. It was supposed to be at the Dill Center. We were all rooting for Todd Stubbe very much. He was such a great guy, and he was someone that the Mid Ohio Valley obviously has connections to both Ohio and Parkersburg. But every place should have a Todd Stubbe. He was such a great guy, and we talked to each other about this thing he wanted to do with Dill Center, and we talked about that back in March or April, and he said, I want to do something like this. I want to have a big concert like this. I want to reopen the Dill Center. I want to make it part of the fiber of Parkersburg again. And as you guys know, I was always about things like that, and we totally were we were on board to do it, looking downfield at what it could be. And as we got closer to it, obviously an absolute tragedy for Todd's family and friends, but just really for Parkersburg to lose a guy like that. And Morgan, his lovely wife, wanted to continue on with his dream. And as you guys know, I think all of you guys at one point or another had been a part or around enough of the shows that Brian and I had done to know that it is an enormous undertaking. This is not just something that you can randomly do. And it takes a lot of moving parts, and it takes a lot of time to get it right. And not to say we've got it down pat, but we definitely get more right than wrong. And Morgan just got a little bit over her head with some of the things, and we spoke, and it just didn't look like the Dill Center was going to be a viable option this time around. That's not to say that it won't be in the future, but by the time with all the things that happened with Todd passing away and things like that, we had to move it to the Adelphia, which was something that normally something like that would go to the Adelphia. So it really was an easy transition, and Nate and everybody over there was great. But the whole point of doing this particular show with this particular band was because this is 9 years ago, this past summer, when that show first happened at the Eagles Club. That's why Jinx is playing the show. That was the first show at the Eagles Club, and that was the first band that really started to make a regular appearance in Parkersburg as a national touring band. And now they're a band with hit after hit after hit after hit, and album and album and album and album, and main stage at the artist formerly known as Rock on the Range. And they still are. They're still. I know it's a weird thing, but they're still very much part of what we did back in the day. And when I contacted them about possibly kind of reliving that first show in a big building like the Dill Center, and they knew what they meant to Parkersburg and what Parkersburg means to them. Those guys, you got to remember, were still working at the mall when they first came to Parkersburg, and now they're, gigantic global artists.
Rock stars.
And they are. I mean, they are. They're total rock stars. There's no doubt about it. They earned everything that they have, and they continue to try and work and be the biggest rock stars in the world. But yet, when I called them and asked them if they wanted to play Parkersburg one more time and relive that show that we did back in the day 9 years ago at the Eagles Club, is to tell us when, and it worked out, and the timing was right. So yeah, I mean, we're hoping that a lot of people that used to come to those Eagles Club shows will come out to this. It is, and it took me a while to realize this, and I honestly, I had to leave Parkersburg to figure this out, that what we did back then, and I don't mean just Brian and I mean like everybody that showed up, you guys were all part of that. What we did in Parkersburg is probably part of its very positive history. Parkersburg became a destination for a lot of touring bands that you have seen to go on to do big things. Pop Evil just being one of them, Blackstone Cherry, of course, Seether's one of the biggest bands in the world. So we did something very cool back then, and I think that we may not be able to do it as often as we used to, but I think there are plenty of opportunities in the future to do stuff like that. And who knows, maybe the Royal Bliss show that we're going to bring back. Royal Bliss was such a huge fan favorite of the Mid-Ohio Valley that we may, the bands playing with them, Joyous Wolf and Messer, both have had top 40 rock and roll hits in 2018. They could be the next band that goes on to be the next Pop Evil, and you could see them for, really just a couple of dollars at the Adelphia. So, it's been an interesting ride. It's definitely not been easy, but it's been an interesting ride, and Brian and I are happy to be doing this again. We just want people that, especially the old people that would come out to the Eagles Club shows, that's really the people we want to see again. If you used to come out, buy a ticket, come out, hang out with Jinx. I mean, Jinx could put 300 or 400 people in the VFW or something like that by themselves. Mm-hmm. I mean, this show's going to sell out. It's more than halfway sold out. Usually the week of the show, you sell double the amount of tickets you've pre-sold leading up to it. If that happens, then the show's sold out. And that's not even including what happens the night of. So I would get my tickets in advance for this one. I do think we will have a completely sold out packed house at the Adelphia, but it's not even so much about the sellout. It's just about the nostalgia for Brian and I.
Can you tell us where all the locations are in the Mid-Ohio Valley they can get tickets?
Oh yeah, I mean it's the ticket. The way you buy tickets is certainly revolutionized, even for a small company like Rocks Off. Having really. The only place you could get tickets back in the day was at the Sound Exchange, and you can still get them there. I mean, Joe is still a great friend and partner to us as we try to do these concerts. And the Sound Exchange, if we're doing something, the Sound Exchange will have tickets till the end of time. And of course, Todd has such a close connection with Joe and the Sound Exchange from those days. So tickets are available at the Sound Exchange. You can also go on to Rocks Off Entertainment on Facebook, and there's a link there. We have some sponsored ads running as well that you can click on and buy your tickets through there, and then you can just have them, and your name goes on a list. I don't even think you have to print them. We have the list if you bought tickets and how many. So you are welcome to print them if you want to have it and have something to hold on to, but you can get them there, and you can get them at the Adelphia. So if you go out to dinner this week to the Adelphia, you can just buy your tickets there. So there are so many places to buy tickets now in so many ways that you can still use cash if you want to. You can buy them with your credit card if you want to. You can buy them at the bar if you want to. But I would buy them in advance. They're going to sell out.
Is there any meet and greets available for it? Just out of curiosity. I know you're not a big fan of that that whole system.
No, I don't really care for that system, but I know why bands do it. And there is through the band's website you can buy a meet and greet. And you have to buy a ticket as well. I mean, that's kind of what their deal is. You buy a ticket to get in, and then the band has their own separate meet and greet. Here is something, though, that before you pop on that meet and greet, let me throw this at you.
Okay.
Because we do want to have as much involvement with the Dill Center as possible and with Morgan and to help Morgan. And we are going to have an auction that night, a silent auction. To benefit the Dill Center. All the money goes to Morgan and keeping the Dill Center alive and well and kicking and making it exactly what Todd wanted it to be. So we will have a couple of different ways that you can meet Pop Evil that night if you want to. I mean, I'm not going to discourage anybody from buying the meet and greet. I'm just telling you that we're going to have a guitar that we are going to do a silent auction with. That guitar will be blank. And part of winning that auction is not only do you get the blank guitar, but after the show is over, you will get to go back to the bus or upstairs with the band and get them to personally sign it for you. So that's
cool.
one of the that's one of the experiences we wanted to offer people to entice them to spend a little money and make and help make the Dill Center what everybody imagines it should be and could be. So that's one of those things that we're going to do. I know I just looked actually yesterday. I've been known to collect things from time to time. So we've got an autographed 8x10 picture of Theory of a Dead Man for some of the younger people out there. I don't know that a ton of us older, more mature, seasoned rock and roll veterans are 21 Pilots fans, but I know there are a ton of kids that are.
Speak for yourself.
I love 21 Pilots.
I mean, there are a lot of people that do, and so I got an autographed picture of 21 Pilots that I'm going to put in that auction as well. I have a Seether record, Poison the Parish record that is autographed by Seether, and there will probably be a few more things that come up along the way. So. We've got some really cool stuff. I mean, if you love rock and roll, there's definitely going to be something for you to bid on.
How do I donate something to the auction?
Oh, you know what, Larry? I should have just sent you a message anyway, and I just slipped my mind. If you want to donate something to us, we would love to have it. I won't put you on the spot, but if you just want to send me a message and tell me what you can donate, I would love to have it there and have a sheet ready for it for Saturday night. But yeah, this is one thing I feel like the Mid-Ohio Valley, and it's probably unpopular to say as a guy who's trying to sell tickets in the Mid-Ohio Valley, I feel like one of the things that we used to have that maybe doesn't happen there as much is people actually coming together for something positive, something community related, something that really could push forward. And if somebody doesn't know Todd or know the types of things that Todd had envisioned for the Mid-Ohio Valley, I feel so bad that he's not here. I can't even just describe it, because he is that guy. He was the positivity where sometimes we lack positivity. So I want to see the Dill Center succeed. I want to help Morgan help the Dill Center succeed. And as soon as that building is ready for something big, I mean, I don't want to break your hearts, but it definitely broke mine on so many levels. One of the things that we were working on for the fall was to bring Hell Yeah to Parkersburg. It was something that I really wanted to do, and obviously with the death of Vinnie Paul, that's not a thing that is feasible. But that was kind of this was the warm-up show. This was the let's see how this works. Let's have an old friend come in and maybe there's rough patches when you do something for the first time anywhere. So Pop Evil was kind of going to be our trial run, and if everything worked out or anything needed changed, we would be ready for when it was time to do a show with Hell Yeah. So there are some things that come my way occasionally that are just going to be a lot bigger, and we'd love to find a way to bring back that old Eagles club feeling to Parkersburg and Marietta, because we did, as you guys know, I'm sure you were all there for one. Craig, I think you were there for every single one.
Yep.
I mean, we had 1,000 people in the Eagles club. I hope former Fire Chief Eric Taylor is not watching.
Yeah, it was 450. Yeah, that's the ticket.
Right.
We packed them in for bands like Pop Evil, Blackstone Cherry, and then the last one with Seether was somewhere around 1,200.
That Seether show was awesome.
Yeah, I mean it was, but that's the thing. Like, we talk about the Seether show as this mythical creature. There's no reason that we can't have more mythical creatures like that Seether show. What we need is people to show up.
Exactly.
I'm not. That's the thing. I don't know if there's if people have become apathetic or they've just moved on from wanting to go to rock shows. I don't know what it is. But for a band like Seether to come to Parkersburg, it's not inconceivable anymore just because I don't live there. It's 1,000% conceivable. It's just, this thing costs a lot of money. And Brian and I aren't in this making a ton of money. And it's not a thing. There's not even a ton of money in the concert business for a promoter. It's really, for me, it's the satisfaction. I mean, I've got no skin in the game. I don't live there anymore, although I do visit and I still play hockey in the Vienna Rec League. But I don't live there on a regular basis, and I don't run a radio station there anymore. I just do it because I love to do it. I do it because I have so many friends there that love having these concerts and having a place to go, and that's why we're doing it. I mean, at the end of the night on Saturday night, I can probably buy myself a hot meal in the hotel room that I stay in and put $5 in my retirement account. It's not a ton of money that we get out of doing this. It's more satisfaction. It's more for the party. It's more. It's I don't want to say it's like a community service, but it kind of is. Entertaining people is a business.
That's what people don't understand. They really don't. Like,
no.
I brought in a lot of famous athletes into the area over the past 15 years, and I spend $2,000 or $3,000 bringing some of these guys in, and then I charge $10 or $20 an autograph, and I sell 50 of them. You know what I mean? And I lose $1,500. But then I have the merchandise to sell later. But people think I'm making all this money, and I'm like, well, really, I'm not really making all this money. It's just something I like to do, and I like to work with the players, and I like to have the inventory and stuff, of course, to sell later on. But it's a lot of work for, like you said, not a whole lot of money. But everybody has this perception oh, look at all this money he's making,
Well, we know the artists as well,
sure.
that they're not making a lot of money. Yeah, I mean, record sales are are not what they used to be. Everybody listens to the internet, so it's all about getting a shirt, getting merchandise, and pounding the pavement, going and doing more and more shows, big, medium, or even small areas.
They're doing better on the shows nowadays than what they used to. I can tell you that because they're. I mean, that's where they're.
It's such a.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it's a double-edged sword for the artists. I mean, they pour their heart into making a record that they know everybody's going to steal.
Right.
And that's just the long and short of it. And some of those people that are robbing them are the streaming services.
Right.
I won't say who it is specifically, but I have a friend who's in a band that has played Parkersburg. He is in a national touring band, and he showed me a Spotify check once, and it was for 90 cents for an entire quarter, for 3 months, 90 cents. I mean, what the hell can you do with 90 cents? And, he poured his life into writing that record and producing that record. And that record cost thousands of dollars to make. And Spotify essentially just pays them on the lowest end possible. So going out to a show is the way that you can assure that shows still come to your area and the bands you like still tour. There's another band I can think of, a guy I absolutely love to death. He was very popular when he came to the Mid-Ohio Valley, and even though most of his band would cycle in and out, I mean, he was always a factor in the band, and he stopped touring. I mean, he would sell 200-300 tickets every time he came to Parkersburg, but Parkersburg and 4 other cities where 200 or 300 people will show up, and then you end up in some place in Paducah, Kentucky, where 6 people show up, and you don't sell any shirts, you don't sell any meet and greets, which again, I don't like it, but I get why you do it. And you have 4 or 5 of those in a row, you're in the hole for the whole tour, and that's why some of your favorite bands stop going out on tour. Bands like Waylon spend 325 days a year in a bus just so they can keep the machine going. Not every Waylon show in every market in the country is a 200 or 300 person show like it is when they play Parkersburg or Marietta. It's just not how the business goes. For Pop Evil, they're probably one of the bands that survived it. They survived going to my old market that I used to work in when I moved to North Carolina. They would sell maybe 25 to 50 tickets back in the day, where in Parkersburg, we'd sell 1,000 for them to be at the Eagles Club. It's just, it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And what made the Mid-Ohio Valley such a great place for concerts was the fact that people showed up. You could reach out and touch the people that you hear on the radio because we brought them to your town. You don't have to drive to Columbus. You don't have to drive to Huntington. You can sit in your own town within 30 minutes probably of where you live and sleep in your own bed at night and pay the same exact amount for a ticket.
And save the $200 or $300 for hotel and gas and tickets and all that other stuff.
So just for me, I mean, I'll 100% break it down for you. Just for me, I'll probably have in my travel to Marietta on Saturday, I'll have $40 in gas, probably $75-$80 in a hotel room. And that's just for me to come there to see a show that I'm also producing. So I mean, that's $120 or so plus food. I mean, by the time I'm into it, I'm into a $200 night in Marietta just to come see a show, just because I happen to be producing it. It's the same thing as me traveling from Parkersburg to Columbus. It's expensive. Here's a chance for you, and it cracks me up that people in Parkersburg sometimes will not cross the river.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. You want to drink. Go ahead. Go and drink. Drink responsibly. You can line up a designated driver and come to a show. I mean, I had a couple people send me messages and they're like, well, now that it's not in Parkersburg, I can't go. Well, you can go.
Yeah, it's 10
you
miles.
You have to go across.
Right.
It's 10.
You got to get 4 people to go with you, and you ride a lift. It's simple. Yeah.
It's crazy easy to get there. I mean, somebody that wrote that, I actually just typed in the addresses of the Dill Center and the Adelphia, and I screenshotted it on my phone, and it was like 9.7 miles. And
Oh
they're
my
like,
God.
oh, is it that close? Yes. If you stop looking at it like the river is a moat and there are alligators, in it.
Armed guards.
Ooh.
Seriously, I mean, cross the fucking bridge. It's okay. It's not going to eat you.
And
you
it's
know?
free if you go up to Williamstown and cross it.
Yeah. Now we know the Pop Evil show is coming up, but do you, with your new job and venture there in Morgantown, do you have any big shows you can mention or are in the works over there? That it's a little longer drive, or maybe we're up to about maybe 70, 80 miles, but do you have any shows coming up over there?
Actually, we have, we're doing Pop Evil the next night in Morgantown. It was kind of a double dip for me, and I lined them up at Main Stage Morgantown, and the venue situation has changed in Morgantown. Schmitz is no longer there. It's still there, but Owen doesn't own it or run it anymore. So I'm not really sure about the availability of that building. And honestly, I'm kind of focused on the Mid-Ohio Valley. I'll let you in a little secret, and not one I'm really going to overly go in on, but I almost ended up back there and completely out of radio. There was an opportunity for me, and who knows, maybe sometime down the road it becomes the right opportunity for me. But my focus as far as the concert business goes is on the Mid-Ohio Valley and the Adelphia, and hopefully someday soon the Dill Center will pretty much welcome us to do those types of things, and that's where it is. I mean, it's not a money thing. If it was a money thing, I would be doing shows in Huntington. I'd be doing shows in Kentucky. I'd be doing shows in Cambridge, Ohio. It's not a money thing. That's a full-time job. This is a more of a passion thing for a community that was so good for me and so good to me and helped me build if being Big Rick is a brand, if that's a thing, it came from the love and support and friendship that I forged in the Mid-Ohio Valley. So if I'm going to go out of my way on a Saturday night to be awake for 24 straight hours to produce a concert, it's going to be in the Mid-Ohio Valley where people have been so good to me. So that's really my focus as far as the concert business goes. And my new job really hasn't moved me at all. I mean, my home base is still my home base. It's about 16 more miles or 12 more miles or something like that for me to travel. So it's not a big deal. None of those things, other than the fact I get to sleep, until 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, as opposed to 3:30. That's really the only thing that's changed for me, and that's honestly changed for the better.
So is the Dill still on the radar then? I assume it is. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. If we can get crowds to come out, and this is where anybody that's listening, watches this podcast, or even you guys. It's got to grow word of mouth. I mean, the Eagles Club thing, yeah, granted, I had a radio station to use as a tool back then, and I don't have that now in the Mid-Ohio Valley, although I wish I did. And I didn't leave the Bear with, I think we talked about this before, I didn't leave the Bear with any ill will. I wish they wanted to be a part of the show. They're welcome to be a part of this show. And
the object is the show has to pay for itself. That's what we're talking about here. There's production, there's room, there's food, there's your ticket sales are going somewhere, and you have to have so many people to buy tickets to come to the show to make it producible, because you don't want it to be a lost venture. So,
well, it can't be. In a different situation than Larry. Larry might lose $1,500 on bringing a guy to town, but like you said, he has inventory to sell later. I mean, there are probably like for example, and I mean, I hate to bring it up because it's tragic, but I remember you brought Brian Christopher to the area,
exactly,
and unfortunately now he's passed away, so there are no more Brian Christopher autographs, and I bet you have a stack of them. And so as people collect, I don't have that option. Once Saturday night is over, a Pop Evil ticket unsold for Saturday night is a useless item to me. It is a recyclable item. Yeah. There are no next day ticket sales for a show that happens on Saturday. Sunday, that ticket value is at zero. And you can only take so many zeros until you just go, this isn't worth it. The spirit of it may be worth it. The party may be worth it. Coming to Parkersburg and seeing old friends and it's totally worth it. But it would be totally worth it on somebody else's dime.
Yeah, you can only
me
go in the hole so
throwing-
many times before you get tired of.
That's pretty much why I
You know.
quit doing the appearances just for myself. Because, like I said, I was doing it all on my own. Even though I was getting inventory and stuff, it's hard to sell that inventory to get all that money back. I mean, sometimes it takes 10, 15 years to relieve yourself of all that inventory. So I'm like,
sure.
I'm just making nickels and dimes for 10 or 15 years. It's kind of a long haul thing. And like I said, after so many losses, you're just kind of like, I'm done. I mean, I'm just, that's why I haven't had anybody in. I think Brian's the last autograph guest I've had in, just because, I lost my tail on that one.
And it really sucks. Jay Morris just posted a little bit ago too how he drove 200 miles or something or other for a show. But it sucks, and it's because of that risk that you're not able. I mean, it's because of that we can't get some of the other bands in here because it's such a risk. I'm sure. We drove to Columbus a couple times to see I Prevail, and a good example. And I understand why, because of the risk of.
Well, people were talking about the entertainment at we just had in fact, this is the last day of the Sternwheel Festival. This is Sternwheel Festival weekend in Marietta. Just a couple weeks ago, had the Parkersburg Homecoming, and we were talking on the show about the entertainment for there. The amount of money that's left for corporate sponsors and things like that is not what it used to be. So you have every show that Big Rick does, there's a budget, and so that budget entails, well, we're going to sell this many tickets, and if we only sell half as many, well, the money's already been spent. It wasn't spent that night. So,
well, when you guys talk about like going to see I Prevail in Columbus, you're going to see them at a venue that is established and owned by a gigantic corporation that buys 50 concerts and spreads them in their venues across the country.
Right.
What the Adelphia does, and what to the same extent on actually a smaller level that Brian and I do, we're the ones taking that risk. Live Nation can buy a show, buy 25 shows from I Prevail and put them in the venues that they'll fit in. What is it, the Lifestyles Pavilion or whatever it is in Columbus. I don't remember the name of the venue, but
Promo West.
That's a good point, though.
Yeah. So if they buy 25 shows and 7 of them lose money, but 18 of them make money,
They still make
made
money.
Mm-hmm.
If Rick and Brian buy one show, put it in the Adelphia, and it loses money, there is no tomorrow on, oh, well, we're going to send them to Columbus the next night or send them to Indianapolis the next night, and maybe we'll make up what we lost tonight tomorrow. That doesn't exist for us. We're just two dudes that figured out somehow to back-assed our way into a concert business and in a small town. And when that doesn't work, and then it doesn't work, and then it doesn't work, well, then it doesn't happen. I mean, it cannot work here or there, and the next one makes up for it, or 2 down the road makes up for the 2 you lost on previously. But when you get to 3 or 4 that don't work, then you stop them or you're done. I mean, that's just the bottom line. You make money or you do not. I mean, I'm not. I unfortunately I have not made so much radio money that I can be in the business of giving away free concert tickets.
You're not a millionaire yet? What's going on? What's going on
No,
over there?
you'd be surprised how not close to a millionaire I am. But
I got a question for Big Rick.
Sure.
Hey, Rick. Hey, would you consider putting on a rock concert in the Mid-Ohio Valley the 3rd week of May and call it Rock on the River with camping available for everybody? Would you consider that? Just going to throw that out there.
You know what?
A 3-day event,
The
let's say.
It is such a topic in the last 24 hours or 48 hours. I will say this about Rock on the Range. Obviously, is what you're referencing. I know Danny Wimmer, I know Gary Spivak, and I have done a lot of stuff with those guys over the years. They've been really great to me. In fact, the access when I was at Bear, and then subsequently the stations I was at afterwards, that I've had to those artists that I could bring people back home so close to, when did you ever, when you were growing up in Parkersburg, did you ever think your local radio DJ would be interviewing Fred Durst? No, that's not a thing that probably ever popped in anybody's mind. So Gary and Danny and a guy named Clay that was there a while back, they were so good to me, and I trust them. Whatever Sonic Temple is going to be, it will be amazing. And there is no doubt in my mind that it will be mind-blowing in so many ways. Even last year, like with the last year of Rock on the Range, with Tool being the headliner, it was the biggest Rock on the Range ever. 140,000 people over 3 days is a phenomenal number. And it is the premier rock festival in the country. I have no reason to believe in any way, shape, or form that Sonic Temple will not be the largest rock festival in the country. We could get into the legalese that I've read about the whole situation, but this guy and his team are absolute 100% committed to rock and roll music. And everybody that's freaking out about the change of the name, and maybe the idea that they add an art exhibit and things like that. You've been going, guitars are art. And every time you go into Crazy Dave's music and at Rock on the Range and you go look at the guitars that are in there, you're essentially looking at a guitar exhibit. If there's another tent set up there that has art in it, so what?
Now, before they had mentioned that they were going to change the name, there was also mention about a month ago about possibly moving it to a different area, that it would not be at the stadium, that it would be at something that had protected wetlands.
I can't speak on their behalf. I know that a lot of the scuttlebutt was about the fact that the soccer team was leaving the stadium. So if the soccer team isn't there, is the stadium useful? Yeah, of course it's useful. But it also, in the same token, is right next to the Ohio State Fairgrounds. And so the parking for the Ohio State Fairgrounds could be expanded vastly if that stadium didn't exist. And if there's no soccer team, would it still be there? I think that's what a lot of that stuff was about. And I think people, just like people tend to do, they jump the gun. They don't have enough information and they get mad. That's the common way that people handle things now, is they just get pissed off and they don't read anything or listen. How many times do people share stories and pictures on the internet that they never actually read? They have no clue what they said. They just, it looks like Rock on the Range is dead. Well, the name Rock on the Range is probably dead. The spirit of Rock on the Range and Rangers and things like that is probably just for right now, for being 8 months away or whatever it is, again, to Rock on the Range date or Sonic Temple date. Everybody's freaking out, but don't. And I guess essentially, Rob, to throw your question out there, the idea of doing another festival, it would not be 3 days, but it would. But the idea has. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility. To tell you that I will do it, and to tell you I could even get Brian to even attempt to do it, would be an absolute lie. It would be an absolute lie. I can tell you the last one that we did worked out so smoothly that it ended 15 minutes early. We never anticipated that happen. Never, ever has a concert ended on time, let alone early. But we kind of perfected what we could do in, a rib joint parking lot with a couple of stage hands and some, drum risers on wheels. And we know how to do it. We are not necessarily thinking about doing it, but it's also not something that I wouldn't consider. I have, good relationships with people in Parkersburg and Marietta, and this summer an idea floated past me that I wasn't ready for, and it wasn't necessarily feasible this summer for a lot of reasons. in my life, but is it feasible for the future? I wouldn't rule it out. Then this is all based on the idea that people come to see Pop Evil, people come to see Royal Bliss. I mean, Royal Bliss is on a Sunday. We're going to end that show by 10 o'clock. And the next day is Columbus Day. So all the federal employees have the day off. So that's why we would do a Sunday show. And it was Royal Bliss, who hasn't played there since the second to last Bear Fest.
And everybody
So
loves
that
Royal
has-
Bliss.
I would think so. It has to be 5 years
Neil's
since
a
Royal
great
Bliss
dude.
has come.
Just make
They're
sure
all
that
great
you
guys.
make sure you condition your liver beforehand, because
Oh.
if I remember right, they were the partiers.
Oh,
They
I
could
will
put it
drop
down.
this piece of I will drop this piece of knowledge on you about that show, and I make no claims that anything special will happen. No claims. That day is also Marty McCoy's birthday from Boba Flex, and as you know, the Flex and the Bliss and I have all been very good friends for a very long time. So to say that there wouldn't possibly be a little jam session between old friends, I can't tell you that won't happen. I wouldn't miss that. That, again, 5 years ago was the last time Royal Bliss, I even think, traveled this far east. So to say that everybody will be excited to see one another on Marty's birthday would be an understatement. And if we all end up on stage singing I Was Drunk together, I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think anybody would want to miss that. The last time that happened, Boba Flex, Waylon, Royal Bliss, and myself all sang that at Bearfest, and I don't know what year it was. I guess maybe 2014. So yeah, I mean we're 4 or 5 years since they've been here, so it's a big deal. If you loved what we used to do with the Bear and with the shows and Bearfest, I wouldn't miss that show October 7th. It's going to be special, and if 50 people show up, fine. If 350 people show up, fantastic. But I can assure you I'll be in the front row singing along with everybody that's there for sure. I'm really excited about that, and I would get tickets to this. Rob, if you want that festival again in the Mid Ohio Valley at some point, to answer a question a long way around, you have to come out to these shows.
Just give us the word. We'll get mowing on the racetrack.
if we could get the state of West Virginia to be cooperative, and we could use the old Eagles Club grounds there, with behind the Department of.
By the way, the
Motor
racetrack's
Vehicles
for sale.
now. Oh, really?
I still have one request: Papa Roach. Can we just get Papa Roach? Because they're a lot of
Papa
fun.
Roach. I think Papa Roach played that
they did.
Parkersburg.
They sure did.
They played a Bear Fest.
Yeah,
Um,
they were great.
yeah, that was that was at the racetrack.
That's one of the few I missed.
Soon to be
Man,
known
I
as
think I'm-
Big Rick Speedway and Concert Venue. Yeah.
No. I don't know that doing anything that big does anybody any good. That's why Rock on the Range is successful. They have a team of people to do that. Brian and I, we may have some wonderful help with Frank and Jamie and Doug and Jay and their wives are committed to help us with the ticketing and things like that. And Stephanie, there's just a lot of great people that really help bring you those shows that aren't just Brian and I. There are people there at noon loading in. There are people there at 2 a.m. loading out that aren't just Brian and I. So I do appreciate all of them. And to take on something that big again, like we did at the racetrack, would be silly on our parts. But to give you something like we used to have, over at the Polo Club or down at what the hell is the place called near the river that
Fishbone.
we did a couple pair of the
Fishbone.
Fishbone. That stuff is possible. It is. Is it planned? No. Is it definite? No. Is it possible? Sure, it is. We have to find 1,000 to 1,500 people that will buy tickets to it, and we have to find a way to actively and correctly market it through Facebook. I mean, if the Bear would want to do it and be a part of it, I would I'm totally open to it. I didn't leave there with bad feelings. I left there to pursue something that I wanted to do, and if I doubt it would ever be called like Bearfest or something like that, but it's all on the table. It's just honestly, it depends on the people. If we can't sell 500 tickets to Pop Evil, how am I supposed to go out on a ledge and do something that costs 3, 4, 5 times that amount if I don't think 12 to 1,500 people are going to show up? I mean, that would be foolish, and that's where I am.
I get the Eagles feeling here at the Dills, by the way. There's just that feel to it.
Plus,
Yeah.
there's plenty of parking too, which is great. You got the parking.
That's it. A lot of people
garage.
a lot of people question. They're like, "You're doing something downtown at the Dills Center?" I'm like, "There's everything you need is right there."
Why the
There's
hell not?
plenty of- there-
Let's support
there's-
Parkersburg. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and I don't know. I got no skin in this game. I don't even know who owns it. But their Parkersburg Brewing Company is down there. I mean, you bring back your own town. I mean, I grew up in Pittsburgh. I watched
2
Pittsburgh go
hotels
through a
downtown.
renaissance.
Yeah.
There's hotels.
2
I mean,
hotels.
there's a whole renaissance of things that happened to the city of Pittsburgh that went from the dirty, filthy steel town that I knew growing up as a kid to a technology-based, I mean, almost sort of in some ways a hipster type feeling in this town that I currently live in. That is definitely not the town that I grew up in. I mean, Parkersburg, you have that. You have that opportunity. You have historic buildings. You had a guy like Todd and his wife Morgan who want to see a place like the Dill Center become that place that has that vibe like the old Eagles Club, to bring in artists and crafts and different types of conventions and things like that into downtown Parkersburg. You have a brewery that opened up. You have some restaurants. You have hotels. Like, you have all the pieces. You just need a driving force to put it together. And if the guy like me and a guy like Brian could be someone who puts 6 events or 4 events a year in the Dill Center, and we get 1,000 to 1,500 people to show up like we used to get at the Eagles Club, we all win. We all win. Rob, you got somewhere to go. Maybe you're DJing the after party, at the Dill Center. Like, Nate, you're doing karaoke down the road at the brewery.
I like that idea.
There's people thriving if that building is open and successful. And I would like to be one of those thriving people if it's possible. I would like to see a town I care about thrive if it's possible. But it takes people to come out. It takes people to buy tickets. I mean, when Brian and I were going through some of our, Pop Evil prep the other day, we looked at our expenses versus what it, what is the possibility to make. And we both honestly said we could have and should have probably charged $25 a ticket for this show. It's $20+ in every other market. Could we get $23 per ticket? Yeah, we probably could have. And that could have led to just more money for us, but we didn't. We don't do that. Maybe we should do it, but the opportunity for someone to come out and see a band of that caliber for $20 in their own town is what makes it special. We were never there to gouge anybody. In fact, I can look back and think of so many times that at the end of the night where we were settling up and it was, 50 cents to the good or 50 cents to the bad. And we're like, we didn't die from it, but we also didn't earn anything from it either. And it was because we made that ticket $15 instead of $20 because that's what we had in it. Selling X number of $15 tickets gets us paid and gets this thing paid off. And if there's, 10 more $15 tickets that sell, then we split a few bucks. And that's how it worked. And if you can't, if the town won't support a $20 ticket, the idea of doing a $30, $35 ticket for an outdoor festival just can't happen.
Right. Exactly.
If 1,000 people buy a $35 ticket and our expenses in it are 25 or 30 grand, well then, sure, let's do it. But show me those 1,000 people first. Show me the 500 people that'll show up this weekend. If they're there, then I got no problem investing in what could be. but 500 people need to show up, and half the tickets are gone. So I'll just leave it at that. Could 500 show up? Could happen.
And tickets are on sale now. You can get them at the Facebook page, Rock Solve Entertainment. You can also get them at the Sound Exchange.
Actually,
and you can get them at the Adelphia too.
Yeah, that Messer that's on Royal Bliss, they're actually just now popping into the mainstream. Actually, I think I just heard them on one of those other kind of stations from air.
I know they exist. Don't worry. And by the way, Joyous Wolf has played Rock on the Range, Carolina Rebellion. They have or are playing Louder Than Life. So, I mean, they're no joke. I mean, that's another band that could become your favorite band that you see opening up for a band that's already one of your favorites for $20. I mean, how the hell are you going to beat that deal?
Yeah.
You never thought when you saw Pop Evil for $10. I mean, they may have been $10 tickets. That's definitely a Brian question, but Pop Evil came to town for Party Like a Rock Star first, honestly, they made me look like a genius.
God, those days were awesome.
I had no idea what I was doing. It's not because I just saw something special in them, and they were willing to deal with me at a small town radio station. And honestly, I could never predict what was going to happen with those guys, but they had something special. Lee has something special. Matt has something special. And we still have that great relationship even today, obviously. But when Party Like a Rock Star came around and I lobbied to get a national recording artist, I never knew back then that they were going to do what they've done. And it's really an amazing story for them and for us and for Parkersburg and the Mid-Ohio Valley that, some of their bands. This is kind of a cool story that probably nobody knows. Starset played their 4th ever show together as a band at the Sixpence, and they actually got canceled at another venue. It was kind of a last minute thing. I think it was like January or February, and that night is the night that the record company that signed them flew to Parkersburg to watch them play and was considering signing them. So they ended up getting signed out of a show that happened at the Sixpence. It was their 4th show ever. We did some special things back then. I mean, and I'm sure if you asked them, I mean, it was probably a very special night for them too, just because they got signed. But for us, it was, the Bear had supported a band that had, I think My Demons was the first track, and we played it early because they were a Columbus-based band and it was regional, and the record companies started to pay attention to them, and ultimately they ended up signing a deal with which now is Concord Music, but they came to Parkersburg and signed that deal. So that's pretty cool. It's a little piece of Parkersburg history that we can claim as well.
Beartooth and Parkway Drive. Those are two on my radar. So,
yeah. I mean, Parkway Drive is they're definitely not local. They're English. But Beartooth is. Beartooth is a Columbus.
They're Columbus band. Too. Yeah, that's why I mentioned them.
Yeah. I mean, that's. I remember playing a Beartooth track when I was still at the Bear. So they obviously have been on my radar for a long time too. And if we can rebuild the concert-going community in Parkersburg, again, not something that's out of the realm of possibility, especially with the Dill Center being on the table. I mean, Beartooth in the Adelphia kind of would terrify me, just because of the amount of space. I mean, right. That's another thing. I could bore you with details, but there is always a capacity factor into what you're doing. I remember years ago, I don't know what it is now, but there was a furniture store on the south side where Planet Fitness is. You guys would probably remember. I don't remember the name of it. Someone came to me, I don't remember their names, and said, "Oh, we're buying this building and we're going to make it a huge venue." This was after the Eagles Club closed, and I said, "Really? That's interesting." And they're like, "Yeah, we're going to put Kiss in there." And I just thought, "Well, you are so far out of your mind." And they're like, "Well, okay." I said, "You can't that's not going to happen. They're like, well, they said, I said, you can never make your money back.
Kiss
Your
tribute
equation
band,
doesn't
maybe.
add up.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, you can put Eric's Kiss Band in there. They're great. Kings of the Nighttime World.
When they're asking the
fantastic.
band to fit, forget about the people coming to see the show. The Kiss show would not fit in most buildings that we have available in Parkersburg.
Well, there
the
is-
stage
it's
won't
just-
fit.
it's not a
So where the people are going to
No,
go?
And they would be
it's not- yeah,
$1,000 tickets.
Yeah.
You know, because there's not enough people.
And when I told, and that's exactly what I told him. I was like, I said you would have to charge, $10,000 a ticket. Show me how many people in Parkersburg have $10,000 a ticket. And so, realistically, there is a ceiling of what can be there, but essentially, nobody you've mentioned isn't somebody that can't end up there. I mean, honestly, it's the does the concert crowd still exist? Do the 1,500 people that came to the Eagles Club back in the day, do they come out to shows anymore? And that's really the question. So here's our biggest, most expensive show since we started to do shows again, and it's this Saturday night at the Adelphia. And if it is something that pans out and 500 people show up, well, then we got to take a look at that and go, maybe rock and roll is still alive here in the Mid-Ohio Valley. And if it turns out to be one of those things that just, if we didn't sell another ticket today, I mean, we're not going to die from it, but we're not going to throw that kind of money out there again because there's nothing, there's nothing to be gained from it. I mean, I know what you guys do for a living. You wouldn't do it if it didn't pay your bills. And so you got to pay your bills.
Exactly.
If
It's
I have
fun,
a-
but you have to pay your bills. Exactly.
Yeah, if you have $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 wrapped up in a show and you only bring in $6,000 minimum and it's $8,000, well, you're eating ramen noodles for a month.
We were talking
If,
about
you
that
know,
with some of the early rap groups where you're not living with mom and dad anymore. There's an electric bill, a gas bill, a car bill, all that stuff. That there's a lot of things behind the scenes that you don't see that your $20 ticket is going to pay for.
Oh yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that if I had to break it down for you, and knowing Brian, he has a spreadsheet somewhere.
Item number 4.
11 cents for this.
Yeah, thank God he's that guy. But if I showed you what your $20 ticket went to, I mean, hell, even if you hate me, just know not that much of your $20 ticket's going into my pocket. Your $20 ticket is mainly gas for the bus. That's really kind of first is travel expense, and you've got they have a crew of probably 8 people, 6, 7, 8 people. So I mean, it pays a lot of people. It's not just like, oh man, we handed Rick and Brian $20 and they each take 10. That is not how this works.
Plus people
I
don't-
wish that's
I
how it worked.
wish.
People don't understand
Yeah,
how
I
much
wish
like the PA cost and all the everything is
Oh,
so much
yeah.
much expensive, like the lights and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. One thing I will say that we never skimped on. I didn't feel like we ever really skimped on anything. I think we gave you a quality product if you came out to a show, but we didn't skimp on those types of things. If you pay to go to a show, you should get a light show. You should get good sound. I can't control how the artists perform, but I can control the environment. And the environment was always something that was very important to us as far as having that feel of you really got your money's worth. Like I want you to walk out of, the Adelphia or the Sixpence or wherever we did a show, and I want you to go, I got a hell of a lot out of that $20. I know sometimes people take their $20 out of the rent money or maybe don't pay a bill that month or whatever so they can get that concert experience. I want you to have that whole experience. Just because you're not in Columbus and you're not in Huntington and you're not in Pittsburgh doesn't mean you don't deserve the correct and same experience you'd get if you went to one of those cities. So that was important to us, getting that right PA, getting those right lights, having the right people to do those things was always super important. I mean, I probably could have put $250 more in my pocket if I skimped on lights or I skimped on sound, but then you don't come back to the next one because you don't feel like you got $20 worth. If it's just like, oh look, there's a par can hanging above the band. Wow, fantastic. No, but if there's 50 par cans and they change colors and you really get the show out of it, well then yeah, I mean, you got your money's worth. And as long as you got your money's worth, I always felt like you come back for more. So it was really the quality of the product that we always tried to push forward. And we really, I think, with what the Adelphia is upgraded to with their system and with what Bob Dewey does, and I really think your $20 goes a long way. You get every penny of that.
And we got a big show coming up this weekend. Yes, there has been a venue change. It was going to happen at the Dill Center, not quite ready yet. Some renovations going on in the big room downstairs. Show happening this weekend at the Adelphia. Buy your tickets early. They're going to sell out. And you want to get to the venue early, too, because you can eat there, play there, and if you maybe had too much to drink, there's rooms upstairs. You can stay there as well.
Yeah, I mean, that place is just fantastic. You don't have a lot of treasures like that joint where you can really go get a great meal, watch a show, and then stay if you're so inclined. You never have to leave that building. I can't rave about
it's
what
so
that
nice.
place is.
Like I said, the food's so good.
Is.
It really is.
And you know what?
Really
If you don't
awesome.
want to stay upstairs, you can. There's plenty of hotels to walk to there.
We
There's
do
the
want
Lafayette.
to. One thing though, we need to knock out the wall and move it over about 4 feet to make the stage a little wide.
Agreed.
That's what we want.
Yeah, I mean it's a tight fit. I will say this though, for every negative you can find in the size of that, and trust me, for Jamie and Jay and Frank and Doug and me to a point that moves the equipment and moves bands off and on and off stage, it's a pain in the ass. But you are touching the stage. It is not far away. There isn't a huge barricade up. You're not pushed back. I mean, there is something to be said about a hot and sweaty piled on top of one another rock and roll show that you can reach out and touch.
Very intimate.
I mean, if you go see, it's incredibly intimate. You can, I mean, you feel the vibrations on those walls and through the person in front of you and next to you. And that's part of the experience. It is a fantastic place to go see a show, and I won't lie to you. And this is I never really mentioned it because we weren't sure what would happen. When I was watching Shaman's Harvest, which is a band I really like, and that was the first show that we kind of came back with in April, and 250 people showed up, which wasn't a bad number considering it had zero. It had zero push. There's no, radio wasn't doing anything with it, and it was kind of the Adelphia and word of mouth through me and people sharing it. It wasn't, and I think a lot more people would have come, but it was kind of the comeback special, the 68 comeback special. And I remember feeling the wall. I was leaning up against the wall and I was watching people, and people were coming by and saying hi to me, which was cool. But I remember just thinking, man, that feels so good. That wall is vibrating and people are singing along. And it really, that place to watch a show is something special, especially a band like Pop Evil. I mean, they performed in front of 40,000 people at Rock on the Range, and you're going to see them with 500 people in Marietta. It's kind of mind-blowing if you break it down that way.
Yep.
It's hard to believe it's been 9 years since the last show. It's crazy.
Man, I can't even tell you. One of the things we wanted to. Yeah, one of the things that kind of spurred this was our friend Mel Dean used to take a lot of pictures for us back in the Eagles Club days, and I sent her a message and asked her if she had any of the original pictures, and I did come across a picture of me and Blackstone Cherry at the old Eagles Club, and I was kind of like, we want to do this just for the nostalgic sake. I mean, I can't imagine how many things we've all been through in those 9 years, but the one thing we always seem to have every 6-8 weeks was some Saturday night to look forward to. It was Pop Evil, and then it was Blackstone Cherry and the Sick Puppies, and we had that Saturday night. It was like, oh man, I'm not going out this weekend. I'm saving it up for next weekend, And you know, when it has nothing to do with me, but I mean, I know when I left, a lot of people have said that you know, it kind of things changed, and I want people to come out and go to that because they remember the fun that they had 9 years ago, and they remember that, you know, it was more like awe. You know, 155 was the only song on the radio from Pop Evil, and you know, I was driving around with those guys in a Ford Expedition. The whole band was in the car with me, and I did not plan this in any way, shape, or form. But you know, 155 came on the radio, came on the bear while I was driving them around. And they looked at me. That was like, "That's really cool, you." And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And they were like, "Well, you played our song while we're in the car with you." And I was like, "No, it's just on the radio station. Like, it just played because it was time for it to play." And you know, kind of blew them away. It was really like maybe the second time they had ever heard their own song on a radio station just organically. You know, it's kind of happened, and they, you know, they were kind of blown away by that. And you know, here I am, the guy that was, you know, kind of responsible for that happening, and they're, you know, grinning ear to ear, and I was like, wow, that is pretty cool. You know, I didn't realize that it would be such a cool moment, and so. Everybody that was driving around back 9 years ago listening to 155 and Back Roadin' from Jinxed, you know, they can come out and do that again. And I hope they do, man. I really do. You're going to see Jinxed at the VFW or something is a cool, it's a great night out. And Jinxed is a lot of fun to be around, and they're great guys, and they've been woven into the fabric of the Mid-Ohio Valley music scene for such a long time, a lot like, you know, Lycus has, and I shouldn't start naming because if I forget somebody, I'm gonna feel bad. But you know, when Jinxed released Back Road, and people called the bear and requested it because it was a local band, you know, and it was like, yeah, I'm gonna play that. I mean, if people are calling and requesting it, why wouldn't you give people what they want? It's the joys of running a radio station. And 9 years later, you know, we're gonna hear it again, and we're gonna hear 155 again. Those two bands on the same stage together 9 years later is, you know, that's pretty awesome. I mean, and if I was the only one sitting in that room watching it, as much as I'd hate to lose all that money, it would still be a special moment for me too. I mean, being semi-responsible for that makes me very happy.
Should be able to count on a couple hundred just for Jinxed. I'm going to guess. I mean, even with
I think so. I think so, and I want people to understand that you know, there's a loyalty factor to all of this. You know, when I called Pop Evil when we set this thing up, you know, I explained to them, hey, this is something you guys did 9 years ago, and we want to relive that. And you know, obviously with Pop Evil elevating to a global product, there's certain bands that can and can't play with Pop Evil. And I called them and I said, look, I want to recreate this show that you played for me 9 years ago. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, you know, they remembered it. They remembered that Eagles Club show. At the time, outside of Grand Rapids, it was the biggest show they ever played at the Parkersburg Eagles Club. When 1,000 people were there to see a band with one song on the radio, and you know, Lipstick on the Rearview Mirror was the name of the record. And at that time, it just got re-released, and they were like, "How are there this many people here?" And I, quite frankly, said, "I don't know. I really don't know."
Good radio.
We just. Well, I mean, I'd like to think that was a part of it, but I mean, it was really because people wanted to be entertained, and whether it's radio or you know, bringing bands to town or bringing comedians in, like I wanted to entertain people. I mean, if I said something funny on the air or something that made you laugh or made you think, like I always appreciated the fact that was, you know, being a part of the entertainment business, but. I like to be entertained. So
you were into wrestling
like
too, right? With the remix.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because it was something I made a couple little notes here that I wanted to bring up. You know, Saturday night is actually special for me on a lot of levels. I don't know how it happened, and I to say that I had really any responsibility in this would be an absolute lie. It's all Adam Johnson and his hard work, but. You know, just 4 guys really wanted to help out local animal charity. I mean, that's really what Remix Pro Wrestling was. Adam came to me and he said, I know how to put on a wrestling event, but I don't know how to get people to come to it. And I said, well, I don't know how to get people. I don't know how to plan a wrestling event, but I know how to get people to do anything. I mean, I can talk anybody into anything. So we teamed up, and you know, it went out of control from there, man. We never imagined it would be what it is, and I kind of hate in some ways and kind of love in other ways that Remix Pro Wrestling is also on Saturday night at the Marietta Middle School gym, and the fact that the show moved to Marietta means that I can go do both. I can go over to Remix for a while. I believe we're over $100,000 donated to local animal charities in both Marietta and St. Mary's, and you know, AJ Styles, who's a champion in the WWE now and one of the best wrestlers in the world, has wrestled for us twice. We've had so many guys that have made it to the show, and going to Remix on Saturday night, even though that I'll only be there kind of like right when it starts, and then I'll have to come back over to the Adelphia to do what I got to do over there. I'm just so proud of that, man. Like it really does. Like it kind of gives me chills to think that I'm a part of two really special, long-standing products in the Mid-Ohio Valley, a place where I'm not from. You know, a place that kind of adopted me as one of its own. And, you know, whether you're a wrestling fan or you're a rock and roll fan, or you're just looking for something to do, on Saturday night, September 15th, there are two events that are going to be sold out in Marietta, Ohio.
The same
and
town.
I had, you know, I had this much to do with it. And that is a really exciting, just wonderful thing for me to think about. I mean, if I had to give you a list of the 5 things I'm most proud of in my professional career, Rocks Off Entertainment and Remix Pro Wrestling would probably be at the top of that heap.
Can you drop the kids off at the
wrestling
Remix
event.
Pro Wrestling and then go over, watch the Pop Evil show, and then when it's over, you go and you can pick them back up at the, use it like a babysitting service.
Babysitting service. There you go.
It is it is all ages at Pop Evil, since we originally started to sell tickets that way, because the Dill Center is supposed to be all ages. We recommend that you be accompanied by a parent. You know, if you're if you're like 16 or under, you obviously don't need to be coming to the show by yourself. But we are going to let honor all the tickets that were sold pre-sold to 18 or under 21. As far as Remix goes, the ringside tickets are sold out, but you can still get in on a general admission ticket. And what my hope is, and I ran into some of these wrestlers recently. These guys are characters, man. Some of them aren't characters; they're actually just those people. But I mentioned to them that we were obviously throwing a big party a couple blocks away. So for the adult entertainment side of coming out, having a beer, and drinking a beer afterwards.
Oh, okay. We're on adult
like
entertainment.
There will not be any matches though on the stage of the Adelpha. Only
No.
heavy metal music by Pop Evil.
Yeah, you'll get your rock and roll, but I think some of the wrestlers may come over and join us after the show's over, and
cool.
and hang out at the Adelphia. And I would imagine Saturday there's going to be a part of me that just kind of sits back for like 10 seconds and just goes, wow.
Hey, speaking of silent auction, by the way, I don't know if you remember or not, but I was the one the last time that took home the nice little Sid mask.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I have a Jim Root mask.
Oh,
Jim
shit.
Root I do. Jim Root from Slipknot. I have an autographed Jim Root mask and a DVD of Jim Root from Slipknot that will be a part of that auction as well. So
get out your folding money, Craig, because you're going to be bidding.
Yeah, I see it.
I forget how much I paid for that thing. It's like $200, I think.
You know what though? Where the hell else are you going to find something like that? I mean, how many other people do you know that can get a hold of Slipknot and get you an autographed Slipknot mask? Not that many, thankfully. So
Yep, sitting in our
So,
dresser
yeah,
in
I
our
mean-
bedroom of all places.
Well, look, what you do on your personal time is your thing, Craig. I'm not gonna ask you what you're doing with your
Who wears the mask?
pre-purchase mask.
What?
Well,
Yeah,
we take turns.
Hey, I was gonna say share and share. Well, now I
Sounds
can
like
make
you
sure
need a
that
second
you each
one.
can have
Yeah.
one. That's right.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the cool thing about this auction. And again, all the proceeds are going to go to keeping the Dill Center dream alive that Todd had. And one of the things that the auctions that I've had in the past, I remember I did one for a girl named Alexis who I was very close to, who passed away. And I think we raised $4,000 that day, which was amazing. It helped pay for her headstone, and some of the remaining money went to the organization that researches the disease that she had. And I remember people coming up and bidding on things, and they just kind of looked at me and like, how the hell do you get something like this? Like, how do you have a Jim Root autographed mask? How do you get all this stuff that you collected? And sometimes it comes out of my personal collection. There will be things in this auction that are out of my personal collection. But sometimes, when you believe in something like I believe the Dill Center could be, and I know that down the road that the Dill Center could be so valuable to the Mid-Ohio Valley and even to me and Roxoff and Brian. And so I want to see that thing succeed. So throwing something out of my personal collection, a thing or two, to see that keep going, I honestly look at it as an investment. So if you do, spend $200 on an autographed Slipknot mask, or $80 on an autographed Theory of a Dead Man picture, you can kind of look at it as an investment in your entertainment future, because keeping that building open and running and pushing it forward and making it a place where we could possibly do 1,000 capacity shows someday is the goal.
Right.
I'll gladly throw a couple of things out of all the stuff I've collected. I mean, like 1/16 of my collection's behind me at the moment, and it doesn't even scratch the surface. I've got stuff that I can't even display because there's just so much of it. So when I can throw a couple of those types of things in, and it throws $300, $400, $500 into an investment in the entertainment future of the Mid-Ohio Valley, I'm all for it. And like Larry said, he's going to donate something too. Larry's a guy that probably has more stuff than I could even imagine. And someday if we bring a Ring of Honor match, matches to the Dill Center, which is it's not an impossibility. Will it happen? I don't know, but Larry's not going to care about the jersey or the pictures or whatever he donates to this silent auction, because he loves wrestling. And if we have a big wrestling event in that building that holds 1,000 people plus, then we're all winning. It's an investment in our entertainment future. And I really think that getting that stuff together and helping any way we can. I mean, if we come up with $1,000 and we hand it over to Morgan that night, it warms my heart, and I know that that's $1,000 towards someday putting that big show in the Dill Center that I really want to do.
And just to pass it along, the state of West Virginia, Jim Justice, the governor, he has selected Todd Stubbe as the Main Street Parkersburg Business Person of the Year. So we hope to keep
I saw
his
that
dream alive here.
Yeah, if you guys didn't know him, he was,
Who didn't
when I
know
announced
him in
this show,
Parkersburg?
Exactly.
Man, he just
it's funny. Brian didn't. It was weird, when we first started this. Brian really didn't know him. I think they had met in passing through Joe at the Sound Exchange, and that was about it. I don't think they had a previous relationship. But to say Todd was like one of my best friends would be a lie. I mean, he wasn't, but he was a guy I always liked. He was a local musician, and he was a guy that you want to be around, and a guy that you root for, and that's kind of how it started for me as far as wanting to do something with him. And
so talented in
when
so
we
many
talked
ways.
about-
Not necessarily just with music, but just all around talented guy. I mean, just
yeah. I mean, he was probably like the Parkersburg version or Mid-Ohio Valley version of like Justin Timberlake. He could sing, he could dance, he could act, he could do whatever. He was just that guy. He just could do anything. It's like Will Smith. He just You know, if he needed to be serious, he could be serious. If you needed him to get up there with a guitar and play a song, he could do it just as well. And man, I really want to see this work out for his family and for, you know, for an area that we all care about. It's a cool thing. And you know, when you come out to the show on Saturday, bring a couple of extra bucks. If you own a business, you know, it'd be a great, I'll pop you on stage, just say, hey, you know, so-and-so construction donated a couple $100 for this, blah, 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 blah. You know, trust me, I'm a sellout. I will do anything to get this moving forward and to help them and see this thing through. So whatever can be done, we'll do. And as the time marches on, if there's a need to do more to help out and make that a reality, Morgan has my phone number, and I'm happy to do whatever.
Well, Rick, we could obviously talk to you for a couple more hours about this stuff. If
I'm
it
a
has to
talker.
do with rock music, man, we're all over it. But
Show coming up
my-
on Saturday.
yes,
At Philadelphia. Pop Evil.
in October
Yes.
Buy
7th.
tickets.
Yes.
In October 7th. Don't forget
Yes,
October 7th. Yep.
Yeah, don't sleep on that show. Don't sleep on that show. Royal Bliss doesn't come this far east. This is honestly maybe the next time in 5 more years.
I've been waiting for him for
the last
5
time.
years.
No doubt. I mean, a lot of people have, Larry. A lot of people have. So, you know, don't sleep on that show. But first things first, we'll have tickets available that night. If you want to buy your Royal Bliss ticket on Saturday night, you can. We'll have some at the door. The girls will have them at the door where they take the tickets. You can get your ticket that night. But
Cool.
yeah, I didn't expect us to have 2 shows in 3 weeks. It was one of the rules that we kind of made, that we were, you know, nothing more than 1 a month, nothing. And obviously there are a few exceptions to that rule, and Royal Bliss being able to come this far east was one of those. But yeah, I hope to see you guys Saturday night. Tickets available. Go to Rocks Off Entertainment on Facebook to get the link. You could also get them at the Sound Exchange and buy them at the Adelphia. But thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me. Appreciate you supporting what we're doing. And
Anytime, Rick.
and Larry,
Seriously.
yeah, hit me up if you want to donate something to the auction. I'd love to have it. I know that I know you got some dime pieces there that if you can throw something our way that we can put on the table and help throw in the bucket for the Dill Center, I'd really appreciate it.
Now, you're just doing music related, or
No,
for the
whatever.
auction?
I mean, if you got something, especially if you got anything Ohio State or the Browns or the Steelers, I can't even
Steelers.
talk about the Browns and Steelers right now.
I wondered if that was going to come up.
I'm baffled by that. I can't even. I haven't even processed what I watched today. 5 quarters of just awful football. But you know, congratulations to Cleveland on not losing for the first time in a long time. So. But yeah, I mean, stuff like that, anything that you think that the people of the Mid-Ohio Valley would be happy to bid on, or Mountaineers, I may try to throw something Mountaineer
I have
related
plenty
in
of
there,
Major
too.
Harris autographs too. You know?
Yeah, so I mean, whatever you'd like to throw in, we'd love to have.
I'll bring one of the Ryan
and-
Christopher autographs over. You know, so
Yeah, whatever you got, we would love to have, and again, it all goes to a worthwhile cause for our entertainment future.
All right. Thanks a lot, Rick.
Thanks, boys.
Appreciate your time.
Cool.
And
Great to see you.
I think
See you on
we're
Saturday night.
Pop Evil this Saturday.
Saturday.
Tickets on sale.
missing.
Sound
I'll be there
Exchange.
for sure. It's given. So,
Want to thank Rob Golf for stopping by. Larry Oakey here. Myself, Nathan S.
Mr.
and
Larry Oakey. All
Craig
right.
Roberts Report. Another Sunday successful night.
Yep. Have a great evening,
boys.
everybody. Appreciate it, Rick.
See you guys. Thank you.
And I've been thinking that maybe it's time to let 'em know that we're alive. Everybody,
Pop Evil Saturday night. Get tickets, Adelphia. See ya next Sunday.
Peace.
I was never on. So, oh, my camera's on.